Have to be hearing correctly. And the speakers are aimed that way. And they're behind the speakers. If you would get closer to the table so you can get closer to the mic.
Okay.
And then I can turn it down. Just slide yourself closer so you're not hunched over.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Because then it'll sound better.
Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too loud or too soft.
Loud is good.
Loud is good.
And I'm going to turn you down if it's too loud anyway.
Okay.
They've got to be able to hear you. And those speakers on the end are facing that way, not at them.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Plus, you look good sitting straight up.
I do. I should have been a newscaster.
You look like one. You have one of those nice smiles.
Yeah, I'm a type.
We posted out on our Facebook page that the live stream to you. So they'll go to you.
It'll
be on the camera.
I'll just. I can just put it down here on the floor.
Oh, you're Mr. Carey.
Dave, hi, I'm Becky.
Do you know? You know the
May
family.
yeah, I know your family very well. Sure. It's my dad's. You're attorney for Debbie and Gary, right? My sister.
Yeah. Don't have any answers.
Oh, that's good. We're waiting for that phone call for you.
I always feel bad.
Do you have any exciting cases? Can't type one.
Oh my gosh.
Are you in the same year?
Yeah, right. So you can have yours later.
Well, thanks for doing this. They're good schedule. It's nice to have someone local.
Do you have any questions for me? I'm going out there and that's my last to see them.
The only thing that I was a little concerned about is that I'm supposed to signal who I'm going to be, who's coming next.
You're saying who speaks next.
Okay.
You just have to tell him and he
It's
says.
like 1, 2, 3, or,
Yeah.
okay.
That way you don't have to say anything. You can just turn to him and say 4, 6, 8.
All right, that's,
Then he will know that 8 is Tony Farrell.
yeah. Okay, that
Or
sounds good.
slide your chair over.
Yeah, so when I go to the ramp, that's, I'll have to
Yeah, you gotta
signal
tell
who
him.
I'm going to be doing next.
And if you don't, I have no idea. And I will not be on the right person.
And you'll never figure it out.
In order for their mic to work, I have to be on the right person. Your mic will not turn on until the camera's on.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
If I see their lips moving, I can't hear them.
That means I'm on the wrong
Whoops,
guy.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, or that number 3.
Yeah. Because I don't have a. I know that's Tammy Nichols because I overheard you saying that's Tammy Nichols, so that's the only one I know so far.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I don't really know them either, I should. I don't get around much.
I'm gonna have to start dressing more Denver like you.
Well, it's just a uniform, just a costume I wear.
I know, I like it. I like it. It's very, very fast escorts.
I am a professor.
Hello, David.
Yeah. see a bike. Strictly higher you go. Yeah. Talk to Mr. Summers. Oh, you did. He said. Well, there's a ton of questions that have been submitted. Yeah, I don't have control of the questions. And they will come up on the screen, we'll read the question. So, let me get that down, because that's,
He says you might do that before you do the opening statements and stuff, so.
all right. Monday. October 17. At what time?
7 to 8:30. At the Veterans Hall. District 11. I have a hard time with that. It used to be District 10 for the day gone long.
And that's at that Veterans Hall.
Memorial Hall, yeah.
And we'll say that's at 11th and Cleveland.
Okay, appreciate
All right.
it. Thanks, sir. How you doing?
Oh, good, good. Black and right along.
I thought you were gonna try and get your old house fixed up. Decided not to do that, or you still?
No, what I've got in there now are rooms. Well, it's about 4 months to get it done. It's about 3 months to get it done. About 2 months to get it done. About a month, she goes, "Oh my God!" The girl's going to show up, I think, August 17th or some date like that. And so she's very scrambling around. Yeah, we've been working pretty hard on it still. It'll take a couple of years to get it in ship shape.
Good use, right?
Yeah, well, I still have all the garage, I've got all my stuff, got all my wood files stored in the basement, and I'm over there every day picking up my mail. I call them roommates, I got really tenants, roommates. I'm paying all the utilities, so I've got that kind of figured in, hopefully they won't. I told them I would reserve the right to charge a surcharge. I'm providing them our sewer trash, heat, electric, students.
They're good kids, they should be all right.
They are. I've done, I did football players, boys, and I'll never do boys again. My nephew and about 5 of his buddies, I had them in another house, a folksville place at 1020 East Logan. And yeah, the difference is night and day. I walk into the house here, everything's picked up, everything's clean. even smells like, you know, perfume or something, and it doesn't smell like dirty socks. Yeah, it's
Well, there's a difference between a bunch of boys and a bunch of girls.
yeah. Yeah, well, the girls have their own set of issues. I had a little drama going on this summer. I had to call a Zoom meeting. They were all, you know, from Canada, they were Southern California. And, yeah, they all listened to old Dad. They didn't right away agree, but it was so it's interesting. Like I say, all requires some management. Like them doing it, girls. So they're 20 years old.
I don't walk by your place.
Oh, I'm trying to get a curb cut. I got a construction thing going in there. I'm trying to get a second curb cut so I can have a circular. That's been going on since the spring. Oh, yeah. All right, I better go. Good afternoon, and welcome to the District 10 and District 11 candidate forum. We have 8 candidates with us here today, and from left to right, we've got Tammy Nichols running for Senate 10. We've got Robert Scoville running for House 11A, Chris Trakel, Senate 11, Maricela Pacina, House 11B, Bob Solomon, Senate seat number District 10, Chris Allgood running for House 11B, and Julie Yamamoto, House 11A, and Tony Farrow, Senate seat for District 11. So let's start by giving a 5-minute opening statement. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and the issues that you see ahead. Let's start with Tammy Nichols.
Thank you. My name is Tammy Nichols, and I currently am a representative for the old District 11, which is now District 10. I was born and raised in Boise, Idaho, and learned early the value of hard work, teamwork, and perseverance. I began working at age 6, where I grew up in my family's businesses. They owned and operated several private schools and daycare centers in the Boise area. I graduated from Boise High School, where I participated in the student body government, as well as on the Brave Sensation dance and drill team. I graduated from BYU, and I have 5 children, 3 who have graduated from Middleton and still 2 that attend. I have lived in Middleton for almost 20 years and enjoy the rural life. I'm invested in my community and have served in a wide variety of capacities and leadership positions. I have coached youth soccer and basketball, worked with the Cub Scout and Boy Scout programs, participated in various service projects and community events, including the March of Dimes and our Treasure Valley Toy Drive for the past 6 years. I've been a school volunteer, classroom mom, field trip chaperone, football parent in Middleton for the past 12 years, and have helped with many projects such as fundraisers, teacher appreciation days, picture days, and many other activities and functions. I'm active in my church. I've served in the children's Sunday school program and young girls activity groups. I've also served as a Sunday school teacher, youth organizational president, secretary in our Women's Relief Society, and Sunday school instructor. I recently did a local drive for our senior centers, collecting coloring books and supplies to donate to them for usage. My work experience is in the banking and medical industries, serving on several boards of directors as treasurer, and handling the financial responsibilities of my own small business and property management, as well as my family finances, which have taught me how to be financially conservative, whether it be in business or personal. I do not have a spendthrift mentality, especially when it comes to other people's money. I grew up in a family business and learned early the importance of fiscal responsibility and what it takes to make a living. This is how I function in my own business and as well as my family. I've had the pleasure of holding the office of the House State Representative for District 11 and Precinct Committeeman in the Canyon County Republican Party. I've seen and participated in the governmental process firsthand as a citizen, going down to testify and helping in writing and reading bills. I understand the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes with government and politics. I have also worked with and volunteered for the Republican State Party, serving in several capacities. I've worked with several local and national organizations on various issues that concern not only Idaho, but also our nation. These include educational issues, the Second Amendment, constitutional amendments, veterans, taxes, marriage, abortion, and more. I've had the opportunity to speak and work with many national and state leaders regarding these important issues. This has been a very valuable and educational experience for me. Today in the Idaho legislature, I have served on 3 committees, which are agriculture, business, and revenue and taxation. Here I have used my voice to echo my constituents' concerns. My door is always open, and I am very accessible the whole year to everyone. People contact me from all over Idaho because they know that I will have a way to help them. I'm a proven conservative and have received several awards for my conservative voting record, both in policy and fiscal areas, including the American Conservative Union, which is part of CPAC, and Club for Growth. I was also a delegate for President Trump. I serve as a state director for Women in Government, a state leader for the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, a governmental consultant for several parental, health freedom, Second Amendment, and small business organizations, as well as for conservative media groups such as the Epic Times. Our country is currently in a negative situation under Biden and the Democrats and their agenda. It is affecting each one of us in our states. The people have been left out of the governmental process, which is wrong, as they should be part of that process. The government is there first and foremost to protect the rights of the individual and to uphold the Constitution, and for us to uphold our oath of office. Those things are very important to me and are constantly in my purview when making legislative decisions. I'm a lobbyist for the people who can't afford a lobbyist. I want to continue to be your voice for you, a voice that cares, a voice that matters, and a voice that stands and protects liberty, freedom, and truth. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate everyone here. Thank you.
Next we'll, thank you, and next we'll start with Robert Scoville's opening statement.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone here tonight for Is that better? Okay. First, I'd like to thank everyone for being here this evening. Thank you to the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event, and thank you to Mr. Merrick for offering to moderate for us. We appreciate it. Let's begin with, my name is Robert Scoville, and I'm running for House Seat 11A. I am your regular working class dad living in Caldwell. I've raised 3 children in Caldwell by myself. One of them has graduated from high school, or excuse me, now 2 of them have graduated from high school. I'm a grandfather and a lover of pets. Lots of animals. I understand and bring to the people of Caldwell my ability to help people come to agreement. As a mediator, volunteering in the Ada County, Canyon County, and Gem County courthouses, I was able to bring people together that were disparate to come to agreement on all kinds of issues in the civil court. I'm currently completing my master's in public administration in the next few weeks, and I got this passion to run for office while I was working as an intern at the state capitol. The problems I saw in our state capitol is that there's an imbalance in the democracy in our state with the one-party rule that we have going on. I saw an imbalance with the regressive tax system that we have in Idaho, the same tax system that is taking more money from lower income earners than our highest income earners. I saw that our precious public endowment lands are being swept away and sold off. And lastly, what really motivated me to run for this office was one day I was sitting in the legislature up on the 4th floor gallery, watching debates and watching Representative Nichols pass legislation. This particular piece of legislation limited the women in our state in how much birth control they can have. They were told by the blockage of this bill that they were only allowed to have 3 months of birth control instead of 6, which could save patients money, doctors time, insurance companies money. The state had no place to put themselves into people's doctor's offices. Which is what impassioned me to run. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll hear from Chris Trakel.
excuse me. I'm Chris Trakel, and first of all, I'd like to thank Chamber of Commerce for putting this on and giving an opportunity for us to speak to the public. Most importantly, I want to thank the public coming from here. I don't care what political spectrum you're on. It's just great to see people taking part in local politics, because our country needs more of that, because we serve you, and you guys need to be here and understand what's going on, and it's great to see you here doing that. So a little bit about myself is born and raised here in Idaho, grew up for a good portion of my life in Meridian, moved on to Nampa about my middle school years to the high school years, graduated from Meridian High, and just like any kid, you know, growing up, I was yearning for excitement. So what did I do? I went and joined the Marine Corps. While in the Marine Corps, September 11th happened. I ended up deploying to Iraq as an infantry rifleman, and decided that my country needed me, and decided to make my career choice the military. When I retired in 2016, my wife, who's also here from Idaho, we moved back. She made me promise that we would come back to Idaho, because it's a great state. I couldn't argue too much with her. She was right. So we came back, and I have 3 children, 2 of which were born in California, and 1 that was born here in Idaho. So while here, I decided, hey, you know, I devoted enough of my time, it's time to take some time back and give back to my family. Well, during this time, we purchased a home here in Caldwell, and I watched our taxes go from $2,700 to $3,200 to $3,400, and then 1 year it jumped all the way from $3,400 to $5,200, a 40% increase in 1 year. We had bought and paid for our home outright, and we almost lost it due to taxes. My wife and I had a long discussion, and I said, I think it's time to get into politics. And not because I wanted to be in politics, but because I can't ask somebody else to do a job that I'm looking to have completed. So you never ask of anyone else what you're not willing to do of yourself. So I had to put my foot forward. So I ran for city council. Unfortunately, I lost by 3%, but this only kept me motivated to keep going into this game. The more and more people I met as I got into politics, I started learning more and more about how people were being affected, not only by high property taxes, but by school bonds and levies, and by legislation that was being passed in Idaho, and how long they've been fighting for property tax relief or other types of release, how much the federal government controlled our lands here in Idaho, and how much money that Idaho loses because of that. So as I started to educate myself and get more and more experience and talk to more people, I became a precinct committeeman. As a precinct committeeman, I watched the Canyon County Republican Central Committee pretty much get a whole lot of nothing done real fast. We had some issues that we had to work out, but when we finally got those worked out, we just weren't moving along enough, and I felt that we weren't listening to the people. A lot of people came and said, hey, unfortunately, we aren't allowed to bring our issues to the party. What is this? So I created a town hall that goes once a month here in Caldwell. To everybody's welcome. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or Constitutionalist. You come and you voice the issues and concerns that you have here in Idaho. And we as a group work together to accomplish a solution to those tasks that we can all agree on. People thought this was great, and it took off. It did really well. And this is a direct involvement with the people and myself as a precinct committeeman. When I won the primary, I switched this over to what type of legislation do we want to see going on into the Senate and the House and being pushed forward. Because I didn't run to get myself elected to push my views, my values across the people. I ran to represent what the people here in Caldwell, District 11, want to have ran and pushed forward. Because I believe our government has gotten away from the mentality of here to serve the people and work for the people first, and instead has looked at this more as a leadership position where I will tell you what you need and what is best for you. That is wrong. It needs to be turned around. You tell us what you want to have accomplished, and it's our job to make that happen. And so that's why I got into politics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next we'll hear from Maricela Pacina.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here because of the community outreach that I've done. I know many of you that are out in the audience, so thank you for being here. I'm very grateful for this moment to be able to express my thoughts, the reasons why I'm running. as Mr. Carrick said. And thank you, Mr. Carrick, for being the moderator. And also thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for holding this debate. I really, really appreciate it. And just to clarify the record, my name is pronounced Maricela Pesina. So it's kind of like muddy waters, Maricela. And so that is my name and how my ancestors gave that name to me. So I'm running for state legislature. I'm running for the House seat of, 11B. Obviously, I'm a Latina. I'm a proud daughter of migrant farm workers. So my parents came from the southwest, from the southern valley of Texas, border of Mexico, to come up here to help with agricultural labor. They came up here in the late 50s, early 60s, and my parents met at the grocery store at the Caldwell labor camp. So for many folks, I don't know how many folks may know that there is a labor camp in Caldwell. It's going out towards Notice. And that is where my parents met, and they married, and they decided to form a family. And I am one of 4 children. And I'd like to say that I was born in Caldwell, Idaho. My baby doctor was Dr. Kellogg. And the only reason I remember that is because that's a cereal box, right? Dr. Kellogg. So my parents took me to the Caldwell labor camp, and back in the 60s, because that's when I was born, was when Lyndon B. Johnson started the Head Start program. And so I was able, and I was very, very fortunate to be part of that program. It was the very first time as a child that I saw my name written on a piece of masking tape. And it was very inspiring. And, and that is where my love of education starts. So I also want to say that I graduated from Caldwell High School. I was valedictorian of my class in 1983. I raised my 2 children here in Caldwell, who also have graduated at Caldwell High School. And I'd like you to know that as a community person, I have taken part in a lot of community programs. I've worked as a PTO person for 6 years, Boy Scouts, Band Booster president for 10 years, and I serve currently as a school board trustee. I'm the chairwoman for the school board trustee here in Caldwell, and it's my 3rd year, like I said, as chairwoman. The 3 reasons that I would like to run for office are public education. I feel that there is a need for better funding for our public education. Affordable housing, which is, I know some people have touched on those topics, and it's getting really hard for people in this town and in this state to be able to purchase a property or also to even be able to rent. And also, another main reason that I'm running is women's reproductive health care. I believe it's really important that we focus on that. It is a right that has been taken away from women at this time, and I believe that there is a movement coming, and I want to make sure that those rights are not taken away, because then it will cause for other rights to be taken away. And we have worked really hard to get where we're at. The issues that I bring forward to you are those issues that I have spoken, the issues that my community has talked to me about. It isn't something that I pulled out of the air. It's something that as I go door knocking and as I talk to people in different places that I'm at, that's what they bring to light. And, how best can I represent my community by making sure that I talk to them and say, what is it that bothers you, that worries you, that keeps you up at night? Because those are the problems that I want to tackle when I get to the legislature and am able to serve at that time. So another reason that I really want to be part of the legislative program at the Capitol is that I believe representation matters. There's 13% Latinos in the state of Idaho, and we have no representation for these people, and I want to be that person. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's hear the opening statement from Bob Solomon.
I'd like to talk about Idaho being a place where we realize our dreams. And I'll start with me and my wife. Once upon a time, nearly 40 years ago, we came to Idaho with the goal of raising a family, buying a house on a teacher's salary and having Betty stay home while the kids were young. And we had 4, and after a zillion soccer, basketball games, track meets, dramatic performance, some of them on the stage, camping trips, the 4 kids graduated from Middleton High, University of Idaho, have jobs and are doing well. Dream achieved, right? But as I knock doors today, I meet young people, teachers, engineers, skilled tradespeople who cannot hope to purchase a house on an Idaho wage. I meet people struggling with their property taxes, senior citizens worried about keeping the circuit breaker to stay in their homes, and everybody's worried about growth. They're hoping their kids can find a schoolroom to learn in, and that schoolroom is staffed by a great teacher. People are generally worried about big issues that impact us in our state, and the legislature has been distracted from solving these problems. This spring and summer, I conferred with tax experts and local officials. I wrote or co-wrote 5 op-eds, mostly on property taxes. I have solutions that we can implement in the next legislative sessions. When I get there, I plan to work for you and the people of District 10 on what you tell me is important, because much like those people up in far away in Washington, D.C., both parties, my opponent has forgotten us and our Idaho dreams. Here's what my opponent spent her time on last year: limiting women's access to birth control, making sure librarians who pick the wrong book can be sent to jail, censoring ideas and speech. Apparently, the causes that no one was talking to me about at the 5,000 doors I knocked were so important that voting to defund the state police, ignoring the drought and our water needs, violating the state and U.S. constitutions, voting against seniors, ignoring property taxes, persecuting Idaho women and their physicians, marginalizing LGBTQ plus people, packing the courts because they supported our right to have initiatives, and last month's refusal to fund education and refusal to cut taxes and give us some inflation help, these were more important to her. All of these unrequested acts push us away from each other as Americans and as Idahoans, and I hope to bring us back together. When I go knocking doors on Saturday mornings, I see parents at the park, they're coaching football, they're doing soccer, they're getting ready to barbecue or going to the woods, camping, and in these moments, they are not thinking 1 second about government. They're not thinking about their road they're driving on, whether the water in the tap is going to be good. They're just not thinking about it. They're thinking about what I was thinking about when we were raising our kids, living their lives. And you know what? That's how it should be, because that's our job. In the legislature, we need to take care of these things, and so people can live their lives. Let's not make government the problem by prioritizing an extreme agenda and neglecting the issues Idahoans face: fair taxes, affordability, managing unprecedented growth, having great schools for their kids. Idahoans deserve to live their Idaho dreams without us getting in the way. I've been working all through this campaign to listen, to speak, and to unite the people of District 10. And if elected, I will work to represent the people, all the people. Please vote for me, Bob Solomon, on November 8th.
Thank you. Next, let's hear the opening from Chris Alga.
And I again want to say thank you to everybody that showed up and the people watching on live stream. Is there live stream? I believe it is. Yes, awesome. Wonderful. That is great. It is so important that we stay informed. It's so important that we vote for people who share our values. This world seems to be getting crazier all the time, and these elections are so important for the future of Idaho and for Idaho generations to come. Idaho, in my opinion, is kind of a last bastion from the states around us, kind of going crazy. And Idaho has kept a culture and a belief that I just represent and I want to represent in Boise. The culture of Idaho is strength, conservatism, and personal responsibility. As Idahoans, we prefer to take care of ourselves. We want less government interference. We demand freedoms to make our own decisions based on our own beliefs. And those things are very, very important to me. Government mandates, overtaxation, handouts without effort, they don't fit the values of the Idaho we live in today. I am a very strong proponent for the rule of law and the rights of victims. I do not believe making excuses for criminals is the way we solve a crime problem. As a legislature, I will fight for public safety. I will recommend tough punishments for criminals and for laws that allow Idahoans to protect themselves. I will always back the blue. I was not born in Idaho, but I moved here at a very young age. My family moved here at a very young age, and our first place we lived in Idaho was on a ranch in Oriana. That's just a little wet spot way out here, outside there. And I was homeschooled during that period of time, and then we moved into town. And for my brief high school career, I attended Gem State Academy. And after that, I did a whole bunch of jobs, mostly agriculture. I was blessed as a young man to get hired by the Caldwell Police Department and served there for the next 30 years, ending my career there as Caldwell's Chief of Police. Shortly after that, I was elected to the City Council, and I have served on the City Council a little over 6 years. That has also been, I'm just a very blessed person. I can't say how fortunate enough I am to have served in these positions. I have raised my family here. I have 2 adult children. I've owned businesses here. I've owned homes here. I hold a bachelor's degree in leadership and management. And I'm on boards and committees like crazy. And I have the experience in leadership in Caldwell to know what's going on and to lead us in Boise, in the legislature. I believe that if we don't stand up for our values now, as this world is changing, Idaho will get swept along. And the reason I'm sitting here is I do not want that to happen. And I sincerely appreciate you considering me, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, let's hear the opening statement from Julie Yamamoto.
What's nice, I think, is that I know every one of the people on this stage, and they are involved in their community and have been for a long time. And I think that that's important, that you have people that are willing to step up, because it isn't as easy as just listening to what people say and then doing what they ask. And that's one of the things I found out as a long-time teacher and an educator, but you know all about that. You'll have one parent who wants one thing, and in the same hour, another parent would come in and ask for just the opposite. And so there you are, getting to try to have the wisdom of Solomon, and having to try to get as much information that you can get and make a reasonable, rational decision that really tries to do the best for everybody concerned. And it's a tough gig in the legislature, because I get lots of phone calls, lots of emails, and they are on both sides of an issue and making sure that I know just how not smart I am. And there are times you struggle, because you can see the different ways that people look. People have different perspectives. So the trick, I think, is to try to find people who you trust, who can give you that good information, and then you do your best to make a decision that you think is going to be best for your district, which in my case is now District 11, and that is best for all Idahoans. And to that end, one of the things I really wanted to see happen is that the tax situation, it's tough. If it was easy, it would have been fixed a long time ago. And so one of the things that happened just this month that I had been hoping and praying would happen is that the cities, the county, and the state, we all got together for a tax forum. And we started talking about what is it that we can do so that we aren't taxing the elderly on a fixed income out of their homes. What do we do so that, yes, that growth pays for growth, but not at the expense that someone can't even afford to get into their first home or any home. And that, to me, is one of the things that we need to do more of, is not point fingers at why everybody else is doing it wrong. The cities they want to give too many services. The counties want too many services. And, the state legislators are the only ones who really are looking out for you. Well, guess what? All of us live in a city, in a county, in a state. And we need to work together so that we're looking out for all of us. And that goes for education, too. I hear all these things about what's happening in our public schools. I believe the PDK report that says, you know what? Most people believe in their local public school that good things are happening there. And it's because their kids are there, and they're coming home and they're talking to them about that. And so all these things, we need to base our decisions on what we know is true. And to that, I still go into the schools because I call it dog years. You can be retired. For every year you're retired, it's like 7 years out. So I try to go back in to see what's happening. I've been in Caldwell schools, Valley View, Nampa, our charter school. I'm telling you, there are good things happening in our schools, and they deserve to be funded and funded adequately. So then I want you just to know I am a real person who I bleed. I care about what people say. I've been married to Leland Sasaki, one of the finest teachers ever. I always say every kid should be so lucky to have at least one person like my husband Leland in their educational life. He's a good guy. I'm still giving back to the community. We started the Assistance League of Boise, the Canyon County branch here. We give baby bundles to the 3 hospitals, and that's a layette, basically about $100 worth of stuff. We take kids to J.C. Penney so that they have new school clothes, appropriate school clothes, and then part of Alliance where we give money to teachers because we don't want all that money coming out of their pockets for the things that they do in their classrooms, and glasses. There are a lot of students who maybe have had the benefit of that. And I also get to be a facilitator for Love Inc., and that is a class that I teach, that I facilitate, called Affirming Potential. And I guess that's how I would close with, is just to say, you know what, every person in Idaho deserves to be respected and taken care of in an appropriate way. Julie Yamamoto, District 11.
Thank you. Let's hear now from Tony Farrell.
Hi, my name is Tony Farrow. I am running for State Senate here in Caldwell, District 11, and I'm going to give you all your very final thank you. I think we're all done thanking you, but thank you all for coming. It's great to see you all engaging in your democracy, and thanks to the Chamber, of course, and to all these great candidates. I have just a few things I want you to know about me. One is that I have really deep roots here in Caldwell. I grew up just down the road on South Indiana. You're nodding because you remember, probably, my house. And my dad owned an appliance repair shop there. My grandpa owned a muffler shop around the corner. My mom worked in the Caldwell schools. My very first job was at the Caldwell Public Pool, where I made $3.35 an hour. That tells you all how old I am. Pretty old, guys. Getting old. Anyway. And so that's one thing. I just have really deep roots here. I loved growing up here where my parents had grown up and where my grandparents lived. And I just really love Caldwell. I live here now in a multi-generational household with my niece and her husband and 2 children, as well as my mom and 2 dogs and 2 cats and 6 goats. Guys, it's very, very Caldwell over at our house. And a big garden, so... And then another thing I want you to know about me is that I also really love education. I spent a very long time in school. I got the bug right here in Caldwell. I was K through 12 at Caldwell Public Schools and went on to college where I got a degree in engineering. I worked in the high-tech industry for about 10 years as a project manager, and then I went back to school to earn my PhD in engineering from the College of Engineering at the University of Washington. And while I was there, I was mostly doing teaching and research. And I served in the leadership of our graduate student union, bargaining contracts for about our 4,000 different student workers there. And so that's a little bit about me. I think the most important thing that I want people to know is that I really love talking to people. I'm really very chatty. I love having conversations with people. I often say that running for office is just my excuse to talk to everybody in Caldwell and to hear all their stories. I love hearing from people. And like some of the other candidates here, I've just knocked on so many doors. I just keep going and going. I have knocked in the rain. I have knocked in really cold weather. I have knocked in 100-degree weather. But it's really important, not to just expect people to come to me, but to go to them. And as all these candidates are saying, a lot of people, they don't have time for this. They're busy picking up their kids from daycare and getting dinner on the table. They don't really necessarily have time to come to us, and so it's important to go to them. And so everything I'll be saying tonight is very much informed by the conversations that I'm having at the door. It's very important to me that, my priorities are the priorities that I'm hearing from the people at the door, from the people in this district. So the things that I prioritize are the things that I am hearing. And that's just the central part of my campaign. I've also pet more dogs in this town than anyone. Okay? Challenge all of you guys to the dog pet. So many dogs in this town. Anyway, to just give you an introduction to the kinds of things people have been saying at the doors, most of the problems people talk about arise from our very rapid population growth. We are the second fastest growing state in the nation. People are moving here really, really quickly, and that has caused a spike in housing costs, rental costs especially. You guys would not believe what is going on out there. People's rents are doubling. I talked to somebody whose rents went from $1,000 a month to $2,000 a month in 2 years. The housing spike is real. We have roads that are increasingly hard to get around on. We have schools, Valley View School District in particular, unable to build 2 new schools right now. We've got a real problem with overcrowding out there. Anybody who is looking at that, everyone should go look at that. This is serious stuff. And then we have, I was also at this tax policy forum. We have police departments that aren't able to grow, fire departments that aren't able to grow. As we are growing, we've got a looming water problem as well. And all the while, the legislature has had hundreds of millions of dollars in surplus. Record surpluses 2 years in a row. And somehow that money that is a lot of it is being generated by the growth, is not making it to our communities where it needs to go. We need to make sure our communities are livable. We need to make sure our schools are growing. We need to make sure our roads are keeping pace with this growth. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, all of you. We really appreciate those opening statements. What we'd like to do next is have each of you take a 3-minute rebuttal. And by that I mean you can extend your comments further, or you can comment on things that you've heard as we've gone down here from my left to right, your right to left. And to start that off, I would like to go from my right to left, but we just heard from Tony Farrow. So, why don't we hear from Chris Yamamoto, then we go back to Tony Farrow, and then we go to Chris Allgood, and then we go down, if that's all right. Okay.
Oh, you're started. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would say, the only thing that I would say is that with the ARPA money, and I know some people didn't think we should take that federal money, but we're going to pay for it one way or another. So I was really happy that with the broadband, that was one of the things. We will, across Idaho, broadband is important. It's one of the great equalizers, especially in education. And sometimes, I don't even know if in here you can get decent internet. It just depends, doesn't it? But more rural places, it is particularly problematic. So that's one of the things that money went towards that. There are water projects, both clean and wastewater, that are in the works. And there also is infrastructure, more than what the Idaho Department of Transportation, the bridges, more than they can even do, and more than we have enough people to man. But believe me, they're working on it. Those that money will be going out, not as quickly as we would like, no doubt about it, but we were diligent in making sure that those things happen and that will be done in a fair way as far as those people being contracting for that work. So that's one thing that I think is pretty important. I think the water issue is immense, and we lucked out, we prayed it water here, and we were able to have crops that went the whole season, but that is something that as Idahoans we are going to have to take a really strong look at, as how are we dealing with water, states' rights as it pertains to water, and how do we make sure that all Idahoans have clean water and then a way to treat their wastewater. Also would want to speak a little bit about education. We put aside that $410 million, some for higher ed, in particular job-ready work opportunities, which I thought was good. We have, we'll let the legislature decide how that gets parsed out. I certainly hope it's in addition to, not in place of, the money that we bring in. We are way behind on schools, and Valley View couldn't build 2, but there are some out there that are over 50 years old, and they need to be fixed. Safety of children isn't just from outside sources. It could be from the roof falling down around their little heads, and that is unacceptable. So we have our work to do, and I do believe that we have committees in place to deal with those things and not just keep pushing it farther down the road. So I think we have things that we're willing to do, and people, new people who will be coming on who I think share those interests.
Okay, thank you, and we'll go back then to Tony Farrell.
Yeah, I want to agree with Julie. I do, like some of the things that the legislature has done for sure, especially the education funding, and I feel just like you do. I hope it's in addition, yes. One thing though I'll note is that in the last 2 years, the legislature has cut $580 million out of the budget in perpetuity. That's going forward, $580 million a year going forward. And I am also not spendthrift. I also like tax discipline. I completely agree, but different times call for different measures. We are the second fastest growing state in the nation. Now we need to be investing in our communities. Now is not a time for austerity. We need to be making sure that our schools are able to grow. There are plenty of levers that the legislature could pull. There are lots of things that they could do in terms of supporting school infrastructure that they just simply haven't been doing. And I'm not accusing anybody here of not fighting for those things, but I just want to point out that the legislature has the money. We have the money to do the things that we need to do. They're not doing it. And I'll also say, at that tax policy forum that we were at last week, there were a lot of mayors got up and talked about the damage that the legislature has been doing to cities. The levels of government right now are not working together, and they absolutely need to. We are in a very important time of growth in Idaho's history, and so we really need these levels of government to work together. Particularly, they were worried about both 2016's, I think it's HB 431, that capped the homeowner's exemption, the homeowner's property tax exemption. That has caused a really big shift of the property tax load from commercial properties onto homeowners. It has caused a lot of problems. So that has put a lot of pressure on the cities. Everybody thinks it's actually the city's fault, or maybe it's the school's fault that our property taxes are going up, right? And so that puts a lot of pressure on them to spend less at a time when we actually need them to be investing in these roads, right? We need our roads to keep up with this growth. And then also HB 389, which was just a very last minute bill that went through really fast that limited what local governments could do in terms of taxes. And we have seen both of our city, Caldwell, and county forego their tax increases this year, and I can tell you it's not because they don't need the money. It's not because they couldn't use that money to expand their fire and expand their police. It's that they're under a huge amount of pressure to not raise people's property taxes, which makes sense, and I agree with. But the legislature has the money. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Chris Allgood.
As these two ladies talked about, our housing is a huge issue, especially Canyon County, Ada County, and it's a huge issue because, again, Idaho is such a wonderful place to live. People want to come here because we're doing things right, and that just makes me proud. I'm very happy that we live in a place, I raise my kids and my grandkids in a place that allows us the freedoms that we still live in. Having sat on the city council for a while, there is a lot of differing opinions about housing. We will have a city council room full of people, and one half of them will be saying, quit building houses. You're building too many houses, there's too many developers. And on the other half of the room, they're saying, we got no place to live, housing costs are too high, we need more houses. I have 2 adult kids that live at home that can't afford to get out, and I really wish they could. I am definitely ready to be a single, just me and my wife. Yeah, empty nester, thank you. Yes. And I don't know that there is a cure because the line at the door to come into Idaho is a long one. The best idea is that we move forward with a plan. I prefer that the state give as much authority to the local level as possible because that's where the best decisions are made. I don't think we should be making statewide decisions because Canyon County is very different from Kootenai County or Clearwater County. I believe those local decisions work best. When I look at this stuff, I don't think of, well, there's this silver bullet. We're just going to go into the legislature and we're going to fix all this and that's why I'm here. As Chris Trakel said, this is a cooperative thing where we go and we talk to people and we decide this, there's not any panacea, not any best thing, but this is the thing that will work best for the most people in Idaho. I really believe in that community cooperative effort, housing and many other things as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, could we hear from Bob Solomon?
Before I relate this to my opponent and what's been going on, I want to talk about the big wide world. In an article by a social scientist I respect, Jonathan Head, in The Atlantic in March, one of the wise men in my life. He's a Republican, by the way. Most Idahoans believe that Republicans and Democrats maybe both have some wisdom and that maybe it's the person, not the party. Anyway, Head said, and it's not called How We Got Stupid in 10 Years, but it's almost called that. And what he says is this is what happened. 2009, they stuck the like button on Facebook. Everybody started going like. Pretty soon, we backed into 2 walls like kids at a middle school dance, and we're leaning against the walls, the extremes screaming at each other, while 80%, the bell curve in the middle, are voiceless. Air's been sucked out of the room. We don't get to talk. And all we hear is this outrageous, non-problem solving stuff going on both sides. What's the solution? Well, maybe get rid of the like button, or at least have to recopy, make it be one more step. But the solutions really have to do with talking to each other, because if we don't, we lose our institutions, because these 80% begin to go, well, what's the government doing? Well, everybody's saying how bad the government is on both sides, and then they're not solving any problems. And I want us to think about that and let it sit with us, because we have got to talk to each other. We have got to have better attitudes about what the other people are saying, and we've got to stop doing some of what we're going to do. So now I'm going to pivot. Tammy, I just want to talk to you briefly about your social media feed. And a lot of it is, I'm looking at Capital Sun, scientific evidence contrary, a bad week and a rough session for the facts. Of course, it's understood children can't get COVID. Here's a picture of people beating on, KTVB and Idaho teachers and a bunch of people. And then a lot of the stuff that's been posted is misinformation. And I don't know if it's intentional, because I think there is some disinformation being fed to us from inside and outside of very, very conservative, very, very radical forces. We need to stop it. We need to look at the information that we're receiving. We need to vet it. We need to listen to each other. If you are a Fox News, go turn on a different channel. If you are at NBC, go watch Fox News. They cover very different things. We cannot be very different people. I grew up when there was one United States, one flag. We were one people. Yeah, there were Democrats and Republicans, but there was the United States of America. I still believe that, and I still believe in us. So let's tell each other the truth in love, and let's unite.
Thank you. Thank you. Maricela Pacina.
I appreciate that, the effort. Yes, so what I'd like to say is, for me, here's the deal. I've been wanting to run. When I started running, when I first became a school board trustee, I thought, okay, this is how I'm gonna help fix the problems with the school system. And I get there, I've been there for 5 years. We go to the Capitol, talk to legislators, a couple days out of the year, and thinking, okay, I can fix this. I can, how can we pay teachers more money so they don't leave our schools? How can we fix our school buildings? And it just gets fallen on deaf ears. And so, being at the table is really important to me, because that's where the decisions are being made. And I also feel that as I talk to my constituents, I see myself in them. I'm a female. I was a single parent. I'm a homeowner on the brink. I was a homeowner on the brink of foreclosure. I'm a community member with really bad health care. I'm Hispanic. I have parents, I am the parent who lost their job. And working really hard. And it wasn't due to me not working hard that I lost my job, but, living paycheck to paycheck and wondering, oh, please, God, don't let my transmission go out, because I'm not going to be able to get through this month, And, just doomed if those things happen. I was a family who was struck by cancer, working 3 jobs to make ends meet. And I have been that person. I know how it feels. And so I want to be that person that has I've been that person who's lived through all those hardships. And I want to have a voice at the table so that those people in my community that they can see themselves in me. And I will fight for them. I will fight for their needs. I will fight for the problems that they face, because it's, we're not all people with a lot of money. We're not. And, medium income, low income. And that's why I choose to be where I'm at. And I also believe that we need to be a team and work together. I've been on a school board. We've had different trustees on our school board. We listen to everybody. I make sure everybody has a voice. And then we decide. And once we decide, we're a team when we walk out. So no matter what the vote was, we're united. And that's what we need to get to, that place again. Like the wise man to my left, Mr.
Thank you. Chris Trakel.
Let's address some of the things that were put out. For instance, and I'm sure this is going to come up again in this forum, in this talk, women's reproductive health is going to be a catalyst for more rights to be removed. I would like to point out that's probably a little absurd, okay? That's like saying the driver's speed limits is going to be more rights removed, and next they're going to take, I can't think, no more red cars or something like that, all right? One law is not a catalyst to removing other laws. And on top of that, what I would like to point out, and I want everybody to remember tonight, women's reproductive health, let's call it what it is, all right? It's abortion, and it's the killing of babies, all right? And we got to remember tonight, whether you're arguing for it or you're arguing against it, when you break it down to brass tacks like we do in the Marine Corps, you're arguing for when is the correct time to kill babies. Just remember that, all right? Taxes are complicated, I heard, came from a colleague of mine. Otherwise, it would be fixed a long time ago. Taxes are complicated because the legislation has made it complicated. I've been at work with this. That was my passion, was property tax, getting into it, talking to my neighbors. I already have a bill ready to go that is going to simplify property tax. I have a bill that is going to make it to where the elderly are not being affected with losing their home because they lived on a fixed income. That's just not right. Anytime the government steps in and says, oh, you're leasing your house, because you don't own it as long as you're paying property tax, it's a lease you're paying. And that's just completely wrong. And I've got a bill that's going to hit that problem on the head and address that. The legislation can give you, and I am doing this, a 50% homeowner's exemption. They can give you an 80% homeowner's exemption. Is that going to change the levy rate that you pay in taxes? Yes, it will. The levy rate will go up so that cities still can make their budgets. They're just going to charge you a higher levy rate. The issue that needs to be addressed that no one talks about, city and county budgets, and that's where it needs to be addressed. Caldwell, for example, went from 89 million to 120 million in 1 year. That's a massive increase, and who does that hit? Property tax owners. Another thing that was brought up and keeps getting mentioned here is this country is a democracy. I want to correct that. I am a product of public school, but this is a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. $580 million went to, in the past 2 years, to education. And I've got 30 seconds, so it's going to be fast. Let me just tell you, money's not the problem with education. What if I told you right now all the school districts have over, in my quick math, $477 million in savings accounts sitting there right now doing nothing? Money's not the problem. Where the money is going, how the money is being spent, and where the money is being utilized. It needs to get to the student. I have 2 kids in school and 1 on the way to school. I want a better product. And I'm out of time.
Thank you. Robert Scoville.
So there's a lot of talk here about how money is spent in the state and money that we have sitting around not doing its job. I sat as an intern on the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee, and I saw the arguments for the state getting a police helicopter. I saw our state legislature, that piece of legislation didn't even make it out of committee, if I'm remembering right. That goes to backing the blue. Our state legislature let down our state police by not allowing that piece of legislation to go through. Sorry, my notes are a little goofy here. In the state of Idaho, there are 1,171 local governments. Everything from water districts to education districts to our state legislature being one of them. Our state legislature has been micromanaging how all of these governments are run with issues like preemption of local city and county laws and ordinances. Everything from licensing requirements, vacation rentals. It's not in this state happening, but I'm just waiting for the plastic bag ordinance to get knocked down. I've heard a lot here about education and the $410 million that our legislature gratefully released to go to our schools. The only reason that happened is because the ballot initiative passed by Reclaim Idaho was undercut by the emergency session that our state had. The people spoke, but were undercut again by our own legislature, micromanaging the word of the people. Like Maricela said, we're here today to discuss, the people are not being heard and are tired of being undercut by their own government. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's hear from Tammy Nichols.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to address a few things. I'm not sure who my opponent is actually talking to. I've been talking to people for the last 4 years and have heard from them, have worked with them, have had their calls during COVID calling me in regards to what was happening with their businesses being shut down, their kids out of school, the things that they felt were very important and not knowing what to do. So I've been working with people for the last 4 years. My opponent has been one of my constituents, and I have not heard from him not one time ever in the time that I've been in the legislature. I would hope we could address issues, but it seems that my opponent would just like to attack myself and my social media, which I don't know what profession he's in regards to social media, but I feel that my social media is mine. He can do his way, and we're good. So a few other things. Ronald Reagan said that government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. But my opponent seems to want to bring more government into your lives. And we have multiple people that are moving here at a rapid rate to Idaho because they are escaping the places that they left because government has gotten out of control. And we do not want that same thing happening here in our state. We have political refugees that are moving here left and right, and I talk to them on a daily basis because as soon as they know that I'm their representative, they contact me to find out how they can get involved, what they can do, because they have seen what has happened in their state, and it has become to the point where they can't live with it anymore. And so they're coming here, they're escaping to be able to get out of that situation. The things that my opponent brought up are issues that are critical and important to people. They are coming here asking me for help with keeping sex out of their schools so that their children are not indoctrinated, to help them to be able to facilitate if we go through another COVID pandemic, to be able to maintain their freedoms and their rights, to be able to have the Second Amendment, to be able to protect themselves. So I don't know who he's talking to, but it's not the same people that I'm talking to because I hear them daily. The other thing is that I don't think my opponent's been paying attention to what's been happening in the legislature. We've had a lot of really good things that the House has done to protect the rights of the people. And that is first and foremost the job of the government and of the legislature, is to protect the rights and uphold the Constitution. So if my opponent feels that that has not been getting done, I'm glad to have a conversation with him, but like I said, he has not ever contacted me in the last 4 years as I've been in the legislature. I have a packet of all the bills that I have worked on to address taxes, to address education, to address medical freedom and education freedom, and I want to be able to talk about those things, so hopefully we'll get into it. Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to intermission. We're going to take a 15-minute break and allow you to stretch. I like to point out that this is being streamed. If you want to watch it at home, it's at TVPBN, PBN as in Public Broadcast Network, TVPBN, Facebook /. TVPBN. So you're getting out there on social media, and we've got the cameras, well, they're on me right now. Jeez. Okay, so everybody take 15, and we'll see you back here at 5:20. We have it here on the screen, and they've done a really good job of switching the camera from each person, and they put their name up on the screen. But you're right. I've got it here, just in the order. So yeah. See now, I need to.
And I know there's Chris.
Well, I wanted to go through these opening statements. Right. And I'm supposed to so I think Diana, that's why I wrote who's going on too, since I said, okay, so that's what I'm just going to try to remember. I will be trying to inject that because I've got House 11, House 11, House 11B, House 11B, Section 10, Section 10, Section 10. They want to know.
Set them up over here. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, I just showed up there.
Not to talk business. And I think I've asked one beneficiary. I just want to make sure the next 6 months is that well, I've got
The membership in the LLC will go in. Also. Bob Solomon? Yeah.
You need Bob Solomon in my cup. Jeffrey, Bob Solomon's not, some people in the back are not hearing him, so if we can pop his mic up.
All right.
He always has his voice that doesn't come through here.
I will turn it up. How the heck
They can contact him and he will.
All right.
Hold together the whole thing. I'll tell them ahead of time. Don't worry about it. I'll just do that. Okay. I'm going to go hit the ground.
So anyway, no. Anyway, I just kind of.
Yeah, I'm happy to visit about trust. I use trust an awful lot, usually testamentary trust, so they don't exist until they die. Whenever it goes on trust, these people in market, these really big trusts. I'm going to California. Because the probate systems are very expensive. Sure. So that's everything we read in here. We have no issues with our
Somebody screws that out.
Well, yeah, I've never really had a problem with probate. It's caused by laws, personalities, business situation. Usually it's
Right.
Okay,
sir, I'll talk to you soon. Good job.
All right.
I like your tie too, by the way.
I'm sorry.
They're not going to take their seats unless you tell them.
Oh, okay. And they can hear me real well. And we're going to do the questions next. All right. Two-minute warning. 2-minute warning. Please take your seats.
Right, one more thing. If people are telling me online they can't see Bob's face because the camera's right at him.
No, he has the microphone right in front of his face. The camera is that camera right there.
Yeah.
You see, it has a robot that switches, but it's Bob. Yeah, Bob just needs to move the mic a little bit to the side. Yeah, I was thinking the very same thing.
They'll still pick up his voice. I'll tell him.
I was kind of noticing that because I see it on the monitor. He's got that thing right in his face. But he'll just need to put it to one side so he has the other side. No. So we're doing questions now?
What's wrong with your shoes? Oh, yes.
We're going to do questions? Oh, okay.
That's a bummer. That is a bummer.
Why don't we do...
Oh, goodness.
Local mind, careful.
Right. There's the touch.
Put it on the other side.
All right, we're back, and we've got questions now. The first question is, if elected, please share with us how you envision dealing with managing crime, managing traffic congestion, taxes, and protecting the quality of life in Idaho. Now, to randomize this a little bit, I'm going to jump around. Let's start with candidates for House District 11B, starting with Chris Allgood.
Will you state?
And we will give you 3 minutes, and I'll be happy to give the question one more time.
Yes, please.
It was a compound question. If elected, please share with us how you envision dealing with managing crime, managing traffic congestion, taxes, and protecting the quality of life in Idaho. And we're going to give 3 minutes to Chris Allgood, and Chris's opponent for House 11B is Maricela Pacina, so we'll hear from her next. But first, from you, Chris.
This is right up my alley, kind of. I appreciate that. Well, I'll start with managing crime. As the people who have lived here a while know, Caldwell suffered from some crime in prior life. There is not a easy way to deal with crime. You have to deal with crime head on. You have to make criminals want to do something else for a living. You have to be tough on crime. There is hug a thug at any level does not work. You have to make it uncomfortable to be a criminal. And as a politician, we need to support law enforcement. We need to train law enforcement. We need to give law enforcement the tools They need to go out and identify crime, identify trends. One of the things we're seeing all over the country now is fentanyl. Fentanyl has not missed Caldwell and Canyon County. We are having regular and continued incidents with fentanyl right here in our city. And so the thing we need to do is support our law enforcement. We need to give them the tools they need. We need to make good, solid laws that our prosecutors can push forward. Traffic is a big issue. The highway departments do a pretty good job. I don't know that there is a solution that will solve it other than maintaining our roadways in a way where they are safe for our public. Taxes and quality of life, that's a very good one. There is a fine balance between taxes and the services that we can provide to make a quality of life. And as a city council person, I work on that all the time because I have a house, I pay a lot of taxes, I don't like it, but at the same time, if my family goes downtown, I want them to be safe. And there's this balancing act that we have to do between how much taxes we levy and how many services we can provide, how much of the services, fire, police, nice roads, good government that we can provide based on the amount of taxes we levy. And so it's not as easy as going in and saying, I'm going to cut taxes, because you can cut taxes, but you're going to cut the quality of life when you do that. You have to continually weigh those against each other and reach the best conclusion that you can. Chris Allgood, 11B. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Allgood. Well, I'd like the audience to reserve your applause. We'll give all the candidates a big round of applause when we get done, rather than turning this into a peanut gallery contest between the audience members. Let's now hear from Maricela Pacina, the Democrat candidate for House 11B.
Yes, thank you. Crime. So my thought on crime is, yeah, we have a lot of crime in Caldwell, and it's unfortunate. But I think when we talk about, hug a thug, that's superficial. That's not the answer. That's not what I propose to do. I don't think that, it's kind of almost, it's just belittling. But what I do want to say is that what causes people to become criminals, and is it lack of housing? Is it lack of health care? Low wages? Living, like I said, paycheck to paycheck? Is it trauma that has caused a lot of these people to be, to burglarize? Is it something that, has happened in their life that has become very, very traumatic? Are these folks self-medicating instead of being able to go to a doctor and figure out, or go to a psychologist and figure out how they can get to be better people and better constituents in our community? So yes, my opponent does talk about hard punishment for crime, but I believe that we need to use our resources to figure out what, is it really, should we have a war on drugs, war on crime, or should we do war on trauma, where the root of the matter starts? Because if you talk to these folks, and I have, that's where it all starts. And I'm not saying do not punish a criminal for what they've done, because I do believe that, there is, something has to happen, a result for your actions. What I want to do, what I want to say is, focus on rehabilitation. As far as traffic, we have a lot of traffic congestion. Why do we not have public transportation? It's not like we need to reinvent the wheel. It happens in other big towns, Seattle, it happens in other cities. Why can't we work together to get public transportation? People need, a better way of getting to and from Canyon County, Ada County. That's what I see in our area. And then the quality of life, I believe that we need to have better wages and an investment in our communities. And then also taxes. Yes, I would love to say, I'm all about lowering property taxes. But we do need to understand that taxes is our revenue income that will provide and pay for services that we really need, like schools, libraries, EMTs, police, fire, all those departments. We need the revenue. So taxes, we have to figure out a way to work on that. My time is running out, so catch me later.
Thank you. Let's hear from the candidates for the House seat in District 11A. First, from the Democrat candidate, Robert Scoville. Same question.
So the way you're going to work with crime is it's crime. You've got the police, you have the offenders, and you have corrections. It's kind of the three things that all come around crime. So you start working with crime by one, working on the police department by making sure, working with the post and post certifications of officers to make sure that we have a consistent certification of all the police officers that are coming into Canyon County and Caldwell. Drug court for female offenders, instead of housing them in shipping containers behind the county jail, is a good way to work on crime. Idaho has the highest percentage of female offender incarceration in the country. Yet Canyon County cannot pass a bond to build a jail to build a new jail. Taxes, I would work with to see taxes. I would work with the JFAC, Joint Appropriations, to make sure that the views of constituency is heard in the state legislature. Traffic, I have to agree with Maricela that public transportation, the expansion of public transportation incrementally going from Boise out is a possible solution for dealing with the transportation and traffic congestion problems. Also, there are other programs such as Rails to Trails, so that people can get around more efficiently in a more sustainable manner, which makes a better world for everyone. Quality of life, the way I'd like to address that is public lands access, so that everybody has equal opportunity to enjoy Idaho's natural beauty. I know that's part of the reason I moved here. I like going up into the mountains and just kind of collecting my thoughts, and I want to be able to have access for that, and I want my children to have that same access for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Julie Yamamoto, who is the Republican running for House 11A.
I was pleased that the Fraternal Order of Police have endorsed my candidacy, and it isn't because I always vote for everything they want, or even for the Idaho State Police. That helicopter, they told us that was a pie in the sky thing. Well, it's a helicopter in the sky, but nevertheless, that you can rent, that they can get the services that they need from the air, and you would have to do that a lot of times to actually have that come back as a good return on your investment. So I really didn't feel too badly about not allowing for that helicopter. I will also say that in addition to the fentanyl being such an issue, Nampa police were telling us that the human trafficking issue in Canyon County is immense and just as problematic, and that we are a conduit, a crossroads. And so when people tell you that the border doesn't matter to us, it does, and we need to be careful about how we're addressing those things, and we can be kind without just allowing this free in and out, and the police are doing their level best to address that issue. They need some help, and part of the help that they need is that whether we like it or not, you need to have enough judges and court opportunities for them to deal with the people that are brought before them. And we have to pay for the services that we say we want. If we want safety, we have to pay for the police and to have enough of them that when you call 911, I know at the school, we timed. They asked us to time how long from the time we called to the time they responded. And that is one of those quality of life things that we have just got to be willing as people to think that it's important and we need to take care of it. As far as the traffic congestion, we are always going to be behind. And I hate to say that, but I'm just going to be the one who is the Debbie Downer here and just say, you can't grow as fast as we grow. We can't get enough roads and bridges and things put in place fast enough. And you look at how much is going on. Is there anybody here who hasn't been annoyed to start down Ustick and not be able to get where you're going and then go another way and find out that road's closed off too? Things are happening. They're widening 2026 as we speak, and it's a pain in the drain as well. But you know what? That is part of growing, and it's something that we need to just maybe we need to look at high occupancy lanes and try some other things as well. I do know that they're talking about railway again, and I'm a huge proponent of rail. I think for quality of life, we do want to keep our lands open so that people can recreate and enjoy our public lands and maybe not let them burn to a crisp.
Oh, that's it. You're out of time. Thank you very much. Now let's turn to our Senate candidates. Senate candidates for District 11. Let's start with Republican Tammy Nichols. Same question.
Did you mean District 11 or 10? Sorry. Okay, 10. Okay, sorry.
I must have meant 10.
That's okay, just making sure. All right, thank you. So we have crime, taxes, protecting and upholding our life in Idaho, and traffic. Those are 4 good issues that I hear from constituents in regards to all the time. And so I would start with crime as well. So we did recently meet with our Nampa Police Department, and we were able to get their information and their perspective on what's going on. Fentanyl is a huge problem, and there are some important things in the law in Idaho that need to be fixed to be able to address that. So I talked with them and said I would love to work with them on that and help to get that facilitated so that we can get a better control on that. Sex trafficking is a huge issue. Idaho has been a sex trafficking hub for a number of years, and it's because of where our state is located. We're in just the right area where we have states surrounding us, and it's easy to be able to traffic right through Idaho. And so I have actually worked with some of our local sex trafficking organizations in regards on how we can facilitate some of that. And there are a few bills that I'm looking at to be able to bring to the legislature. We also need to do something about our borders, and I think as a state of Idaho we need to stand up on that and be able to help close those borders. The Nampa Police Department told us that the border is the big issue with sex trafficking and with fentanyl. In regards to taxes, we need to re-index the homeowner's exemption. We have a bill that is ready for that. We tried to bring it a couple of years ago. We had 50 co-sponsors on it, and we weren't able to get that in front of a committee, so we need to do that. We also need to help our circuit breaker. I voted against House Bill 389. One of the issues was because of the circuit breaker and kicking our elderly off of that, so it's time to and we did help facilitate that a little bit and increasing the amount so that we could get some more people back onto it, but we need to address that. Again, budgets do drive taxes, and so we want to also work with our cities and counties in regards to that issue. On protecting and upholding life in Idaho, we need to make sure that Idaho does not become Seattle, does not become Portland, and does not turn into the cesspool that we are seeing happening all around us. Boise is not doing very well right now, and I hear complaints about Boise all the time. We don't want that to happen, so we need to maintain that. Also with taxes, we need to utilize our natural resources. If we start utilizing our natural resources, we can make money off of that. Right now, our forests, they burn. They just burn. We don't utilize what we can. So we need to utilize that, and that would bring money into the state. In regards to traffic, we need to work with our cities and counties and need to make sure that our infrastructure can sustain itself and that we're not growing so fast that we can't keep up with that. And we also want to make sure that our tax dollars are being utilized appropriately in regards to maintaining our roads and our infrastructures. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy Nichols, Republican Senate District 10. Let's hear now from Bob Solomon, who is Democrat running for Senate District 10.
It starts young, and our children I want my 9 seconds back. And our children need to know that the police are their friends. That's how it was when I was a kid, and we've gotten away from that. Second, we need to recruit the very finest. And I'm frightened when Boise says, hey, you don't need to have a degree anymore to be a cop. We need good training, we need the very best available people, and we need them in all the schools so that people know that the officer is their friend, and so our schools are safe. I have more to say, but I don't have time. Crime, fentanyl, we need to make sure that the penalties for trafficking are increased. My opponent voted against that. The bill was HB 469. We need to rethink that. I'm just going to stop there, except we need to just give all the support to our law enforcement. Traffic, we've got to work on infrastructure. It's complicated. I don't have time for it. Remember this. This is marked this. Pin it. Infrastructure bank. Property taxes, I agree with Tammy. We need to unfreeze the homeowner's exemption. It should be about $175,000 instead of $125,000. They did this, and they haven't done anything about it. They went to never mind. I propose that we use impact fees to build our new schools. Okay, people are voting against property taxes because their property taxes have been rising unfairly as there's been a shift from commercial, which is not rising in value, to homeowners who are rising in value. People love Idaho because, circuit breaker, sorry. We need to expand the circuit breaker. We expanded it a little bit. Tammy voted against that according to the according to the Secretary of State, the legislature site. Quality of life in Idaho, for most of us, it means our out of doors. We want to recreate, we want to hunt, fish, camp, we want to do all of our stuff, boat, you name it. People in Idaho do a diverse number of things, and our outdoors is important. I don't want to sell it, which seems to be one thing that we're trying to do, and we need to think 7 generations ahead. I want my great-grandchildren should be able, if I get any, to be able to recreate in a great Idaho. I want those 50 spots at Eagle Island. We need to be expanding those things. I am shocked, Tammy, that you voted against the state parks budget. So we have a lot of strong challenges, and I've just really pencil sketched. The one other thing I am hearing is that I would like to mandate people who are resuscitated from fentanyl more than once into drug court. I mean, cops are frustrated. They're doing it over and over again. If somebody's got a problem that bad, we need to help them fix it or they're going to die.
Thank you. Well, let's hear from the candidates for Senate District 11 now, starting with Tony Farrow, Democrat.
The first thing I'll say is that we were at the tax policy meeting last week that I've mentioned. Multiple mayors from this valley got up and called HB 389 the defund the police bill. Multiple mayors got up and said to the legislature, this bill shouldn't have happened. You are defunding our police forces. And another very important thing to know about HB 389, it was passed very quickly, it was introduced very late, because we have such an imbalance in the legislature that the majority party can suspend the rules and get bills through. That bill came in very late, past the deadline to introduce bills, right? But it went from committee on the House side to the governor's desk in a couple of days, right? And that bill then hamstrung the cities and the counties and all the taxing districts, really, right? And said, hey, you can't take increases bigger than this. And so that means, so just making sure that the cities have the resources that they need to fund their police departments would go a long way. I mean, that would help a lot. right now the legislature has a real beef. My friend called it that the other day. He's like, oh no, there's a beef between the legislature and the cities. And that, that's not helping anyone. And as we see cost of living rise, I mean, a lot of the problems listed here, right? Crime, traffic, taxes, quality of life. A lot of this has to do with the fact that we are growing so quickly, right? People are more worried about crime because we're growing so fast. And if the cost of living is really high, we can expect crime rates to go up. That is, that's just math. That's just a principle of economics. And so, if we want to, we need to focus on the cost of living. We need to make sure the cities have the money that they need to make sure that our cities are safe. Property taxes, we absolutely need to reindex the homeowners exemption to market values. That's already been talked about. The legislature made that change in 2016. They have been hearing homeowners complain since then and have done very little. They upped the cap from 100,000 to 125,000, and that's it. And the legislature could fix this anytime they wanted. They could have fixed this year, and they did not do it. They have made a shift of the property tax load from commercial properties and landlords onto homeowners, and they have done it on purpose, right? We need to make some changes in the legislature. The problems are serious. They're affecting our communities and cities. Tony Farrow, Senate. 11.
Thank you. Let's hear from Senate District 11 again. Republican Chris Traker.
All right, so crime, all right, the war on trauma, not on drugs. See, the problem if we take an approach like that, we end up like San Diego, we end up like San Francisco, hypodermic needles in the streets, and you're going to have to download an app so you're not stepping in human feces where you're going everywhere. We need to address the drug problem. The drug problem is a serious issue. Getting into our state is coming from the borders. We need to secure the borders. That is a state issue. I don't care what people say when, hey, what does Idaho have to do with this federal borders? Well, the drugs are coming into our state, and it's time we did something about it. Now, that means rehabilitation to those that are on drugs, all right? We're not allowing them to do it in the streets. We're not allowing them to doing things. We get them rehabilitation. Traffic. And well, real fast on crime. 389, I hear, it was defund the police. Let me tell you, I'm not a fan of 389, but 389 did not defund the police. Your cities and your counties defunded the police. Those budgets, they can get their police budget from sales tax, impact fees, property tax. There's a multitude of ways they can pay for it. It's a budget problem. How many mayors did you see drop their salaries? How many did they cut wasteful spending? 0. Instead, they put fear into you and say they got to defund the police and the fire departments. That's just not true. All right? Traffic. Traffic is always going to be a problem until Elon Musk is our savior and solves our problem with flying cars or whatever. It's not going to happen. Traffic is always going to be a problem. We're going to be expanding roads. We're always going to be behind that because of growth and how much money the government has is limited to. If we want to increase income taxes and start paying for toll fees, then maybe we can get ahead of that. But once again, that puts a burden on the Idaho taxpayer. And I would like to point out that I hear that the median income in Idaho we're only 2% in Idaho above the national average. That's not that high. All right, so if you want to increase and add all these other things for more traffic and stuff like that, you're going to increase that median income. And my numbers come from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, by the way. Taxes. Taxes is basically theft, if you ask me. Like I said, and I'll announce it tonight, my bill that I have in the process returns the homeowner's exemption to 50% of the value of your home, no matter what value your home is now. We'll go back to 50%, and your tax base will be based on the day you bought your home, and that will be your tax for life. All right? It's not going to increase because the city wants to increase their budget. Whatever you paid for your house, that's your tax. Keeping Idaho life in Idaho, I can't agree more. You know, Idaho's beautiful. Amen to what he said. We need to take our lands back from the federal government so we control our lands and make them available to the Idaho public. Now, I think that's everything, isn't it? Yeah, I'm good. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Next question. Idaho has experienced rapid growth recently. What do you see as the greatest success and failures at the state level. Let's start out this time with candidate Maricela Pesina, who's the Democrat running for House 11B. The question is, Idaho has experienced rapid growth recently. What do you see as the greatest success and failures at the state level?
Thank you. Rapid growth. Okay, so I work as a title officer for a title and escrow company, and I'm going to start with the successes. Daily, and it seems like, you know, I went back into title and escrow a couple of years ago, and daily I would perform closings for people that are coming from out of state. And I'm going to tell you, there's some amazing people that are coming here. I get to welcome them to our state, which is sometimes not the same feeling that others harbor about people coming from out of state. But I take the time to talk to them and ask them, why is it that you're coming here? And, you know, they talk about our public lands, they talk about our beautiful lakes and the hunting and the fishing, but they also talk about family. They talk about how they have children that live here and they want to be close to their grandchildren as they retire. And, you know, I talk to them about if they have any ideas or any plans about being involved with our community. And I do believe, I think the plane is landing. I do believe that they do come with that, with the instinct of, you know, being part of our community. So I can say that's one of the successes that I've seen when I speak to, when I see the rapid growth. Now, as far as the failures, we can go back to the question that we just had before, you know, which is the congestion, which is the high crime rate, which is, you know, our property taxes are rising because these folks also come here from states where they're able to sell their properties for a larger amount of money than what we have been able to sell our properties for. And they have cash on hand and they are able to choose a home without even looking at it. And they're able to, for them it's not a problem to be able to get an appraisal so that they can get a loan, because it doesn't matter what the next bidder is asking for, they're gonna go higher because they have the money. And so that leaves our kiddos, our younger children and our the first generation of homeowners out in the dust because they're not able to purchase these homes because they're being sold out from under them. You know, some of the other failures that I see about the rapid growth is the infrastructure, which we've already talked about. You know, as our infrastructure increases, we've got to get funding. You know, we've got to have more police force. We've got to have more.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's hear from House candidate for 11B, Republican Chris Allgood.
Thank you. Well, we've had a lot of both. Some of the great successes we've had are really good people moving to our state. Every house in my neighborhood that's sold in the last 2 years has been sold to somebody from California. And when that was happening, I was pretty nervous. But I know all these people, and they're very good people. I'm happy to have them in our neighborhood. And again, it's just good people. The other thing that our growth is allowing us to do is provide more resources. We have more shopping opportunities. We have more entertainment opportunities. We have more cultural opportunities because we have more people coming into our neighborhoods and into our cities and contributing to our economy. The failure is to plan for this rapid growth. This growth is something that nobody saw coming, and it came upon us very quickly. When we plan growth, we need to plan growth that stays within borders and stays. We complete our infill. We don't eat up farmland, so everybody has a lot big enough to, too big to mow, too small to farm kind of situation. We need to protect our farmland as we grow. We need to keep our comprehensive plans up to date. When we built our last comprehensive plan, our growth was just happening. And we're in the process of putting together another comprehensive plan just because the one we had is already outdated because of growth. And I think a up-to-date, based on where we are today, comprehensive plan is extremely valuable with what we're seeing in our growth patterns. And like I said, our failure is to recognize our growth as fast as it's come and make up for that with new plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's hear from the candidate, House 11A, Republican Julie Yamamoto.
So as far as failure is concerned, I guess no one could have foreseen that we would have such growth as we have had. And there are comprehensive plans, but I do think that it's one of those things that that folks that are moving in, a lot of them are retirees, and who do we need to be having come in too are someone to replenish our workforce. And so we really are at a crossroads of not just how do we have homes for people, but how do we attract and retain people who are need to do jobs, whether it be from plumbing and electrical work, and even farming. Because let's face it, we want to keep that farmland here, but all you have to do is ask Farm Bureau. They are having a challenge finding enough younger farmers who want to stay in the business or are taking over the family farm. And then you have to look at property tax or property owner rights for the people who do own that farmland. So I know they're looking at some things that have to do with a land cooperative, and I like that idea that you're going to say, you know what, your property is your retirement, and we're not going to say you can't not sell it, but we want to keep it in farm ground, so we're going to look at that land cooperative. I also would like to just say that, you know, we talk about a lot of the things that maybe we didn't do, but what we did do is that the rainy day fund is maxed out, 21% of the general fund, and we don't like it that maybe cities and counties and the state have these rainy day funds, but we are required by law to be able to, at least for 6 months, be able to pay salaries and our bills. And it also is what keeps your bonding at whatever level, whether it's city, county, or state, your bonding level at a high enough rate that we can, when we need to, that we can borrow. We paid off our bond debt and did $250 million towards deferred maintenance, $900 million total. We have $552.9 million that we put for transportation projects. And when I said before, it's more than what we can keep up with, that is an absolute fact. But your legislature is not unaware of the problems that we're having. And so when you talk about these dollars, this is no small amount. It's not piddling. It's not pocket change. It's not breadcrumbs. And while at the same time, we recognize that there were inflation problems, and so we put money back not once but twice in the form of income tax rebate that could go towards your property tax, towards inflation for food, gas, whatever it is that you need in your family. So I don't feel like that we have been out of touch with what's happening in your house, in your daily living. And I also feel like that with the rapid growth, it is one of the bad things that happen when you live in a wonderful, perfect state.
Thank you. Robert Scoville, Democrat, House 11A.
So a couple of successes that have happened because of the rapid growth. One would be the state has saved a lot of money with the increased tax base of people moving into the area, an enormous amount of money. With this large amount of people moving into the area, it has created a kind of a balanced economic marketplace in that, you know, you have people of different trades moving into the area that creates competition for the people that were already here, and that helps to keep rates on services at a reasonable price. Understandably, they go up because there's more demand for the different services. I drive a school bus in the Valley View School District every afternoon. So I drive through the Ustick and Cherry farmlands and understand the problems that we have with growth. And now I don't know the numbers like Representative Yamamoto does, but one of the failures that I've seen is not that the expansion isn't getting done. One of the failures I've seen is the time it takes to get some of this expansion to happen. Another failure that I've seen is we'll save that one for later. The time it takes to get the infrastructure in place is what is a big limiting factor for having even more growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go next to Bob Solomon, a Democrat candidate for Senate District 10.
Well, one of the successes that we have in Idaho is that we're still a state peopled by really great people who are willing to listen and who care about each other. I've talked and knocked 5,000 doors. I haven't waited for people to call me. And these people are well disposed. They want to talk. I've had maybe 5 bad conversations, and one of them had to do with an extremist who was extremely drunk. So nice people that are willing to talk, which I talked about. I talked about that earlier. These are people that if you slide off the road, 3 or 4 pickups with chains are going to appear right next to you to pull you out of the ditch. So this is a good part of our frontier history. We still are maintaining our strong ag. We're still very patriotic, ethical. For the most part, people, you'll see American flags at Democrat and Republican alike households. We are still attracting tech, and they are going forward in this comprehensive plan to make sure that we preserve our farmland. So some good things. Now, some failures. We froze the homeowners exemption 6 years ago. It's still not unfrozen. Should have been done a long time ago. Infrastructure. A guy in Star, and you guys have said it yourselves, the infrastructure always comes way after the development. I think we could do better with that, perhaps using some of the surplus for an infrastructure bank so that we go, okay, this arterial route's going to need to grow because these 1,000 homes are going in. Here's the impact fees. Let's have the infrastructure bank start the contracting so that by the time it's done and the infrastructure bank is paid back, that road is there and we're not all sitting on Highway 44 wondering if we've purchased a parking lot with our state tax dollars. Same thing with property tax. We're way over time on it. That I would suggest that that's a failure. So we've got some successes. We've got some challenges. And again, I just want to keep that. We can keep our unity as a state, as a people, as a culture, if we continue to talk to each other, continue to care about each other, and be willing to disagree with each other without becoming really disagreeable. Thank you.
Thank you. Staying with Senate District 10, let's hear from Tammy Nichols, the Republican.
Thank you. So I jotted down a few things that I felt were successes and failures. And again, we have amazing people. A lot of the people that I've met that have just recently moved into the state within the last couple of years are amazing people, and they want to get involved and they want to help maintain our state and our way of life. Some of the successes that we've had is we passed some really great legislation in the House, legislation that would help address tax issues, that would also help in our education with indoctrination, and being able to protect our children from mutilation. We have done a great job in a lot of ways, but I think one disconnect that I see transpiring and has over the last several years is there's a disconnect between the state and the counties and cities. And I think there needs to be a reconnection with that because we have to work together on those issues. A lot of these issues about growth happens at the local level, and it's up to the local counties and cities to facilitate a lot of that. But the state needs to also come in and work with those counties and cities so that we can work together to bring the best outcome for the state of Idaho and for the people that are here and have moved here. Some of the failures that we have had is I believe that we need to limit our reliance on the federal government. We are taking way too many tax dollars from the federal government, and there's always strings attached to those tax dollars, so we need to step away a little bit on that one. We need to let the people govern themselves. The people that govern themselves govern the best, and so we want to maintain the rights of the people to govern themselves. We need to work on business regulations. We can have some amazing growth in our state. We have some good stuff transpiring, but especially for our small businesses, we need to work on deregulation. In traveling the state, I've talked to a lot of companies that have said that they really are needing people in trade. We have to boast our trade schools and do a better job with that. They've been put on the back burner for a long time because we've been pushing college and career, but our trade schools are vital to our state, both in agriculture and your regular trades. And one way we can do that is by instilling education freedom and allowing parents to make those decisions that are best for their children on where they attend school. We also want to maintain our farmlands. Agriculture is huge in Idaho, and we have to have our agriculture in order to be able to maintain the state in how we have it and how we love it. And one way we need to do that is to maintain and balance our farmlands so that we don't lose those. And our taxes are too high. We need to get rid of some of these taxes. I have co-sponsored getting rid of the grocery tax over the last several years. We need to get rid of the tax on food. That is a tax that should not be, and states all around us do not have food tax. So we need to get rid of our food tax. That is one way that we can help lower the tax.
Thank you. Let's go to Chris Trakel, Republican for Senate in District 11.
Clarification before my time starts. Was the question legislative successes and failures due to the rapid growth, or was it just success and failures due to rapid growth?
At the state level, Idaho experienced rapid growth recently. What do you see as the greatest success and failures at the state level?
Okay. So at the state level, the biggest failures that I see, we'll start with that. I always start with the bad and with the good. The school system, all right? The school system is suffering, and legislation has never addressed how the overcrowding of schools, the underpay of schools, it just hasn't been addressed. We allow all this rapid growth comes in, and what does that do? Well, with rapid growth comes more families going into education, which overcrowds the classroom, frustrates the teachers. This needs to be addressed, and I like something called concurrent growth. When a certain population hits, a new school has to be built before there's more population growth. That'll handle the education system there. Other things, and this is more on the local level, but police and fire is being outpaced a lot faster than the cities are growing, and this needs to be looked at. And I worry about state legislation getting involved into municipality government, because the government closest to the people is the most important and the most effective, and we don't need more government oversight. We need less government oversight. Let the local municipalities come together with their communities, find the solution to what that is, and work it together. Other problems that I've seen, obviously traffic is the major one, but Idaho's 44th in median income in the state. So if we increase that to start rapidly increasing our traffic infrastructure like we need to, that means more taxes on the people that don't make a whole lot in the country. So that's more of a burden on the people. Is it going to be slow progress? We all know the saying, government is slow, right? So government's slow, but if you're willing to be taxed a heck of a lot more, I'm sure that it could speed up. But every time I turn around, Idahoans are sick of taxes, whether that be income tax, grocery tax, property tax, any type of tax you can name. So let's go with the good. Family life here, I think we've done really good with trying the best we can to preserve the Idahoan way of life, the way it's been for decades. Idaho is well known throughout the country, and I used to get this from the Marine Corps, you Idahoans are too nice. So Idaho is well known throughout the country as being the nice state, and we need to keep it that way. Rapid growth could change that, but I like to think that as nice as we are to each other, the rapid growth won't matter, and we'll actually conform them coming in. The other thing that I like about what I think is doing great, and the legislation is noticing, is trying to preserve and protect what makes Idaho great, and those are the parks and the community functions that we do, the parades, so on and so forth. I would like to see the River Festival come back maybe one day. And I would like to point, we are a massive growth state, all right? People are coming here from all over, California, Washington, Oregon, and and I ask yourself, think to yourself, why are they coming here? Is it because the left liberal policies in California and those states are so great, or is it because of the conservative values that Idaho is nationally known for are so great, and they're coming here for our conservative values?
Thank you. Senate District 11 candidate Tony Farrow, Democrat.
Hi. Yeah, as far as the good and the bad go, just I'll say what I have been saying, which is that, when we have a time of rapid growth, we need to be investing in our cities and our counties. And we need to remember that the state has been really flush with cash. I mean, really had a lot of money. And they carved out, again, I'll say it one more time, $580 million a year in perpetuity that we will no longer have in the state coffers at a time of growth. And so for me, when we have rapid growth, and we can blame the cities who are framing their problems as defunding the police. We can blame the cities. We can do this all day, blame other agencies. But the reality is that the tax income increase has gone to the state level, and they have not shared that with the cities and the counties that are on the front line of this growth. I mean, this is a problem. So we need to make sure that we're not electing people who are going to continue to try to dictate to the cities and the counties, anything about their tax policies, et cetera, et cetera. We really need to start working together to make sure that we're growing. And the roads are behind. I'll tell you what, Karcher at 55 at Karcher, that interchange has been bad for 10 years. So yes, things have grown really fast. Like, it's gotten a lot faster. Nobody could have predicted this. I do agree with that. But we got behind on these roads. We got behind a long time ago. And that's why we're having trouble to catch up now. We haven't been making the investments that we need for a very long time. And we could have been doing that. I think when the legislature pats itself on the back and they are very excited for all the money that they're not investing in our communities, we need a change right now. We need a change right now. And so, that's kind of my concern. We made a $100 million investment last year. The legislature made this $100 million investment in roads and bridges, and that investment was to cover 1/3 of our backlog, right? They've been piling up a backlog. They've been piling this backlog up, guys. So again, I would say in times of rapid growth, we need investment. We need investment in our cities and our counties who, again, are governing closest to the people, know what's needed in their areas. Causing more problems for them is not going to help. Thank you. Senate District 11, Tony.
Thank you. Okay, are you ready for a new question? With the reversal of Roe versus Wade, please explain your position on women's rights and/or abortion. With the reversal of Roe versus Wade, please explain your position on women's rights and/or abortion. Let's start this time with Chris Allgood, a Republican candidate for House 11B.
Thank you. The Roe versus Wade decision did not reverse whether you can get an abortion or not. It simply pushed that decision down to each state. Where it was federal law that abortions were legal in all 50 states, it simply took the federal law out of it, and it gave each state the right to make that decision. And and each state across our country has seen this subject differently. And I am happy, I am fortunate, I am glad that Idaho has made the decision they've made. We're talking apples and oranges here. There is women's rights, and certainly women should have every right. I mean, you know, as anybody else. But when someone is pregnant, now you're talking two people. You're not talking one people, and there's two people's rights involved. And I support Idaho's right to life. I support Idaho's laws. I believe they are correct. I believe that when there is a child involved, a pregnancy, it's not a discussion, as candidate Treacle said, it's not a discussion about, well, it seems to be a discussion about how the baby can be before you can kill it. And I can't fathom that. It's not a discussion I would have. When there is a child involved, born or unborn, it is a child, and I support that person's right to life. And I'm very proud of that position, and I will stay with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Maricela Pacina, Democrat for House 11B.
This is an issue that's very dear and near to my heart. As a 23-year-old woman that found herself unwed and pregnant, you know, I was really scared. I was a member of a very, very conservative religion, and because I was unwed, I knew that I was going to be expelled from my church and not have any contact with my family. So the fact that I went to talk to my doctor here in Caldwell, and he told me what my choices were, you know, that was a conversation that I had between my doctor and I. And whatever I chose, it was my right as a woman to be able to make that choice. Idahoans should have the ability to make decisions about their own bodies without government interference. And at that time, I didn't have men sitting in the doctor's office with me to tell me what I was supposed to do. So a lot of people, I think there's a misconception about, the medical procedure. Sometimes there is a necessity for medical procedure that needs to happen in order to be able to save the mother's life. And, you know, we talk about ectopic pregnancies, fetal abnormalities, victims of rape, victims of incest, maternal ages. Maybe the woman is too old, or maybe she's too young. Pre-existing medical conditions for the mother, like cancer or kidney disease or heart failure. Those are the things that I'm talking about, the exceptions that we need to talk about. And we also talk about, you know, the candidates here talk about, you know, the rights of the unborn. How I wish that they would feel the same way when that kid is born, and invest in comprehensive sex education, make birth control affordable and accessible to all, support affordable health care, including maternity care, provide maternity leave, support higher education, higher wages for women, and work against child poverty and poverty in general. Because now we're talking about pro-birth versus pro-life. And that's where I stand with this issue. And I feel that, you know, my story that happened to me, I'm a woman, and I've had children. And there came a time when I had to make the choice. The choice that I made was my own personal choice and nobody else's business. And so that's where I stand with this issue. Thank you. Maricela Pacina, District 11, House Seat B.
Thank you. Let's hear from Robert Scoville, Democrat for House 11A.
On the subject of abortion, I am unabashedly and unapologetically on the side of a woman having a choice to do with her body as she pleases. My daughter right now is at her house just on the other side of the freeway here. She's packing up to leave and move to a different state because she is unable to carry pregnancies to full term because her body doesn't allow her to take most of her pregnancies to full term. Now, I asked her if I could discuss her publicly, and she said, yes, please. Because she's exercising her choice now to go somewhere where they have doctors that will respect the private relationship that she has in a medical office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's hear from Julie Yamamoto, Republican, House 11A.
The trigger law was voted into place, but I was there for the heartbeat legislation, and I voted yes for that, and I would vote yes for that again. I am pro-life. However, in Twin Falls at the state GOP convention, I was one of the few, about 168 of us, who stood up and said, you know, there are situations where we need to be concerned about the life of the mother. We need to be compassionate when we're talking about rape and incest. A 10-year-old giving birth, when their little body can become pregnant but can't give a safe birth. We have to be compassionate in those times. And not only that, even though I'm endorsed by Idaho Chooses Life, but David Ripley, who is the executive director of Idaho Chooses Life, he is the first to say, and has said, and will continue to say, all right, you pro-life people, it is time for us to stand up, roll up our sleeves, and make sure that we are doing exactly what has been suggested, is that we care just as much after they are born than before when they're in the womb. And that is an absolute, that is just a godly principle that we're going to take care of those young moms or someone who, for whatever reason, you know, do I think it should be a form of birth control? I don't. Should it just be a convenience thing? I don't think so. But when somebody gets in a situation and they need some help, then we're going to have to stand up and be ready to do that, even if it means finding homes, adoptable homes, for 2,000 babies a year. 2,000. So you think about that. We don't even have enough people in this room to adopt out 2,000 kiddos, unless y'all are willing to take about 20 each. So the life of the mother, rape, incest, I understand that. I think we need to act with compassion, and then we need to invest in those young lives. And we will either invest for them early on, or we will pay for them later. That is a simple, absolute fact. So pro-life, but let's be compassionate and let's take care of those youngsters once they are they are born.
Thank you. Let's hear from Tammy Nichols, Republican candidate for Senate 10.
Thank you. So yes, abortion is a very sensitive topic, and it's a hot topic. And I wanted to reiterate that the Dobbs decision did not take away Roe versus Wade. It did give it back to the states to be able to maintain and make it a states' rights issue. So there is still access available in some way, shape, or form in the state, as well as states around us. And Idaho, in our legislature, we decided that it was best to protect life and to be able to maintain life. There are still some exceptions. Rape and incest has been mentioned, but we want to be able to maintain life, because the right to kill your child does not bring women equality, and it never has. Each life matters, all lives matter. When we have black babies that are being aborted more than anything, we have a problem. It is a problem, and we want to make sure that we protect all life. And so we did pass the heartbeat bill, as many, many other states did, and we did pass the trigger. And so that is a great thing for the people of our state, because we have people coming here that also are very pro-life and want to protect life. What this does do, though, is it gives us an opportunity to be able to like it was said, roll up our sleeves and to do our part. We just don't care. I just don't care about the pregnancy and about the child before it's born. I have 5 children. I care about children. I want to make sure that children are taken care of in the best way possible. So what this does is it gives us an opportunity to be able to start doing that. I'm actually working with a committee of legislators from all over the state in regards to adoption and other things that we can bring in. We need to make adoption more affordable. We need to be able to maintain that in our state as an option for people and make it affordable. Abortions cost less than an adoption does, and I think that should not be the case. We need to get our churches involved. Churches have always been the backbone for our communities and to help in those situations where we have crisis pregnancies or things that are happening within the families. Churches have always done a great job, and they had to stop that because of the Obama administration making it to where they had to adopt out. If you were a religious adoption agency, you had to adopt to anyone that came to you, and that didn't work well, so a lot of the churches stepped back from adoption. We have great organizations that are around the state that help with pregnancies, crisis pregnancies, and to help women after they have given birth to be able to get them the education that they need to be able to facilitate childcare, to help them adjust to having a baby. And so we want to support those organizations, and we have our Chooses Life license plate, and that helps do that, and there's other things that we can do. And we need to make sure that we understand that there is a difference between medical care and abortion.
Thank you. Bob Solomon, Democrat for Senate District 10.
I want to go back in time in 2 different ways. First, let's go back to the Republican convention that Julie talked about. Julie was a minority because what they decided there was no exception for any reason whatsoever. Ectopic pregnancy where the fetus is going to die and the mom is going to die, no exception for no reason. No exception for rape. None for incest. None for if the guy takes his condom off in the middle, which I found out during this election apparently is a thing. So we have a forced birth situation here. Let me go backwards though, because what is missing is everybody loves a baby that they haven't seen, but nobody gives a poop about the woman that we're talking about here. We're voting against child care for her. The state sent the money back to the feds, the ARPA money, by 1 vote. Why? Because something else is going on here. Now let's go back to 2016. The man who would become president of the United States said, you know, these people are having abortions. Let's punish the woman. Let's punish the women who have abortions. All the good pro-life people, and I was one of them in previous years, said, you know, no, the woman's a second victim. She's a victim too. We don't want to punish women. And he kind of backed off and said, oh, okay. But you know what? The Idaho law criminalizes women. Now, we said, oh, those poor women, they're victims too. Now she's a criminal. Let's catch her. Let's lock her up. What happened? You know, there's a thing that happens when you look at the baby whom you haven't seen and the woman who you can see, and you make a choice in favor of somebody at 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and you go, man, you know, that's an innocent, wonderful human being. You know what? That person has not developed personality. It does not have relationships. It cannot survive outside the womb. And I think, and I'm going to go to the extreme middle here, we need to do something to compromise this. And women in the early stages, you know, I'm not sure where that is, but maybe Mississippi was close, maybe Roe was the right place. We need to allow it because you know what? You're from the government and you're here to help these women, but you're going to help them be in poverty. You're not going to take care of the kid. You've had 50 years to do that. Let's be realistic about this. And you don't have enough people that want to adopt, especially if they're a minority, physically disabled. We really need to search our souls about this and not be reductionist in our thinking.
Thank you. Tony Farrow, Democrat, Senate District 11.
Hi. I want to start by just acknowledging the story that Maricela told us here, which took a lot of courage and showed a lot of vulnerability. That was a pretty important, story to be told. And I think characterizing her choice as killing a baby is a really, really painful thing to do. And know that when you're saying that to women, a third of women in the United States have made this choice, have made this personal decision for themselves with them and their families. And so to characterize them as having killed their baby is a really painful, really unnecessary way to characterize it as we are talking about legislation, I think. And so I just wanted to acknowledge Maricela for doing that. And then I also want to say that I've knocked a lot of doors. This issue has come up, of course. This is a very tense issue. It's tense up here, obviously. It's a tough thing for us all to discuss. But everyone who has told me at the door that they are against abortion has mentioned their faith. That their feelings about that have to do with their faith. And this issue very much falls along faith lines. And as strongly as we feel about our faiths, as important as they are to us, we do not have the right in America to push our faiths onto other people. We just don't. It's just un-American, right? And so this issue is very, very difficult. Not everybody sees it the same. It sounds black and white as people are talking, but for me, it's clear we should not be forcing one group's faith on anybody else. The other thing, about the bills that passed here in Idaho, we have exceptions right now, and that may not last a long time. We have a veto-proof majority in the legislature, and they did pass, as these guys have talked about, in their platform, they said no exceptions. So right now we do have exceptions for rape, incest, the mother's life. These decisions are hard to make. They're probably fairly scary for the doctor to make because we have another bill that allows the doctor to get sued, right, by anybody's family there involved. And so, these bills are very serious. But the other thing about rape and incest I just want to get out there is that you can only get your abortion due to rape or incest if you have a police report. And police reports on rape and incest are all been impossible to get. It's not just like a case number for when you get hit by a car or something. So right now, the rape and incest law is actually not.
Thank you. Chris Trakel, Republican, Senate 11.
All right, so I'm just trying to get a lot of information here in a little bit. So I heard about, the mother's life, rape, incest, where us Republicans are insensitive to that. I must have been to a different GOP state convention because that was heavily talked about. And you got to understand that the media is trying to swing it around. We did not say there's no exceptions to any of that whatsoever. They're in there. They're allowed to be in there. The trigger law that was kicked into place specifically says during rape and incest. And I'd actually like to point out at the end of the trigger law, now, what it actually says is, where's my phone? I want to open. Nothing in this section shall be construed to subject a pregnant woman on whom any abortion is performed or attempted any criminal conviction and penalty. So that's an outright lie. A woman is not being held criminalized for getting an abortion. Name me one woman that's in jail right now for getting an abortion in Idaho. All right, mother's life and rape and incest. Rape and incest is less than 0.2% of all abortions that happen in this country, and this is from the CDC. All right, now we want to talk about the mother's life. That's 4% of abortions. And how many maternity deaths are there in the country? 2020 had 3,613 births in this country. 861 women died because of those births. What does that come to? 0.02%. All right, too young. Once again, that comes to 0.2% of people under the age of 15 getting abortions. What I'm tired of hearing about is the extremes. I'm going to pick the most extreme argument to defend why abortions need to be around. Why are abortions around? 25% claim they're not ready. 23% say they can't afford it. 19% say it's going to get in the way of my career or my education. That's what abortions are being used for, okay? They're killing babies because it's an inconvenience. I'm not arguing against mothers' lives. Rape or incest are too young to have children, all right? Those are all medical situations where an abortion can be and utilized to help and protect the mother in that situation. And once again, that comes down to the mother. Another thing that was mentioned, all right? How do we define death in Idaho? And I got 45 seconds. Death in Idaho is defined as one of two things: the complete cessation of respiratory in the body or the heartbeat, blood flow, or complete brain inactivity to include the brain stem. Well, at 5 weeks, the heartbeat is in the womb. At 10 to 12 weeks, respiration is being seen in the womb. And at 5 to 6 weeks, brain activity is being shown. So if that's our definition of death, that's our definition of life by precedence. And I could take a religious argument, but I don't, because as my opponent said, the Bible is not an authority to everybody. So I look at what is it to everybody. Science, right? Always follow the science. That's science right there. 6 weeks, they meet the criteria for life.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Please tell us your views on free speech, the Second Amendment, and the rule of law. Tell us your views on free speech, the Second Amendment, and the rule of law. Let's start with Maricela Pesina, Democrat, House 11B.
All right, sir, I know I've started one question before. So I'm just wondering the fairness of it. But, okay, so can you please tell me again what the question is? And can we start the clock again?
Trying to be random here, but please tell us your views on free speech, the Second Amendment, and the rule of law.
Okay. So I totally believe in free speech. It's one of the rights that we have received. It is the right to be able to speak our mind. Sometimes, as I sit on the school board, I wonder, some of the comments that are made. And then I refer back to this one particular freedom that we have, a right that we have of free speech. And free speech is something that it's one of our, like I said, one of our rights. We have, that is part of being able to protest. That is part of being able to let people know what we think, what's on our minds. And we can't be shut down for that. Second Amendment rights. The right to bear arms. I completely agree with the Second Amendment rights. Everybody should, it is a right that was given to us. I have many family members that own guns. Whether I own a gun or not, it's my choice again. But I will not take guns away from people. Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, certainly, for sure. What I do fight fault in is the people that own guns. How do we control the shootings that are happening, the mass shootings at our schools? Just like if you drive a car, you have to take a driver's license and you have to have insurance. I feel that we need some protection for our community, especially with what's been going on. A person who is mentally unstable and, that should not have the right or should not be able to own a gun. I believe that is very important. And then also the rule of law. The rule of law, I believe that, if it's regarding like limited government, I really believe that we have we have three branches that that take care of our executive branch, our legislative branch, and our judicial branch. And if I'm going the right way with this, rule of law, I believe that those different branches are here because we need to have balance in power. And we also have limited government so that we don't become a dictatorship in this country, that we don't have leaders that go out of control and do whatever they see is fit.
Thank you. Let's hear now from the Republican candidate for House 11B, Chris Allgood.
Thank you. Freedom of speech, again, is one of the founding things, one of the groundworks of our society, and I believe it is extremely important. I believe our freedom of speech is under attack these days. I believe that there are opinions that these days are considered illegal or wrong, and as however we believe about what we say, I believe we need to have the right to do it without being assaulted for it. I also see a huge difference in freedom of speech between being able to say what you think and burning down people's private property. That's not freedom of speech. From the outset, and by all means, freedom of speech should be protected at all levels, at all costs. The Second Amendment, I am very proud of Idaho. We have great Second Amendment laws here. I was a police officer when we removed the requirement to have a concealed weapons permit, and I was a little nervous about that when that happened. But I have to say that it has not had any detrimental effect. I mean, as a police officer, you kind of consider everybody has a gun anyway, but I'm very proud of how things have gone. People have conducted themselves very well. Another thing that Idaho has done in conjunction with the Second Amendment law is they have good stand your ground laws, and that helps protect those people who feel that they need protection without ending up being arrested if they have to protect themselves. And so I'm proud of Idaho for that. The rule of law, I believe in supporting the laws. I believe in if a law is good, is good. If not, let's change the law, but we support the laws as they are written. I am very much for limited government. I do not believe in making a law for every single thing we do. I believe people are responsible and can conduct themselves in a way that we don't need a law for every single thing you do. And so I believe in limited laws. And so kind of a summation, again, as I have stated many times before, Idaho is a leader in having good regulations but limited regulations. And I think we're all blessed to be here talking to you today about what's going on. And thank you very much. Chris Allgood, 11B.
Thank you, and let's hear from Julie Yamamoto, Republican for House 11A.
So the free speech, even when I don't want to hear it, people have free speech rights. And it was challenging when a friend actually brought up legislation to say that we would make it illegal for people to protest outside of someone's private home. And, you know, I love those people, and I felt badly that their children were actually afraid because there were people out there and making noise and that sort of thing. But there were also people out there who were praying, people who were singing hymns, people that were trying to be supportive. So it has to be, I voted against it because I believe in Second Amendment, your free speech rights, even when I don't want to, when I don't agree. And once we start down that slippery slope, I think that's dangerous. And I would say the same thing about our Second Amendment rights. It is absolute. There, to me, is no wiggle room about shall not be infringed. And there's no wiggle room about whether it's a threat from domestic or foreign. And so they're just absolute, and no more than you're not supposed to drive a car and drink liquor and then drive. And we have laws against that, and it doesn't keep people from doing that and harming people. And the same thing about, we have laws that criminals aren't supposed to have guns, and unfortunately, they don't seem to think those laws apply to them. And so you can have all these laws and rules and regulations, but I think it really speaks to something more of a heart issue, and that we need to look at as a people, about how we treat each other and how we view each other and value each other. And then the final thing is rule of law. When everybody starts to do what is right in their own eyes, that's called anarchy, that's called chaos, and it is unacceptable. So we have to have someone who is, that we put in charge of taking care. So these are our laws, we're interpreting those laws, and this is what we're going to do about those laws. And we can see that sometimes there are people that we trust to take care of those things are not trustworthy. But we have also seen where we have taken care of that, and that they fall under that same rule of law, and that's how it ought to be. So we are a system of, Thomas Jefferson said, if we were angels, we wouldn't need them. Well, that's not even true, because a third of the angels fell. All right, well, we need to have laws, right? And we need to have rules that help govern how everyone can have their constitutional rights protected.
Thank you. Robert Scoville, Democrat, House 11A.
I'm going to change up the order of these a little bit. The rule of law, as four of us are going to be legislators in the coming weeks, and we're a system built on laws, and whether you like that law or not, it's our job as an elected official or not to follow those laws. Do you like it? No. If you don't like it, run for office. Everybody needs to follow the law. The people that don't, they end up in jail, they end up getting fined, we all know where that heads. So rule of law, I'm a champion of it. Second Amendment rights, we all have a right to have a gun, to have guns, to have as many guns as you want. We're not coming to take anybody's guns. What I ask for, though, and what I would ask for as a legislator, is common sense regulation that would allow time to find out if we have people that are psychopaths trying to get their hands on guns. I'm not saying that everybody can't have one. I'm saying that we need to just take a little bit of time instead of having, say, an 18-year-old boy or a 60-year-old person with dementia. Nobody knows this person has dementia. How can we find out? How can the authorities find out? How can the gun seller find out if this person is going to take a weapon and go shoot up something? Free speech. Free speech is this right here. All of us are allowed to sit here before you with our diametrically opposed opinions on everything from free speech and guns to abortion. And we're allowed to say whatever we want, and Tammy's not going to punch me in the face for it. That's what free speech is about, and it's about respect, and me respecting these people that I don't agree with, and these people that don't agree with me respecting me. We have the right to say what we want as long as we're not infringing on somebody else's rights. And that's what free speech is about. Rob Scoville for 11A.
Thank you. Bob Solomon, Democrat, Senate 10.
It's interesting that the first two questions have to do with constitutional amendments that talk about what kind of laws you can't have or you shouldn't have. And the third one talks about, okay, what flows from those laws. And we have a constitutional republic, as we mentioned earlier, and it's important that we follow the book and that we follow it well. Now, who interprets that law? Which is the Constitution, which is generally the court systems, the Supreme Courts. And I want to go backwards just like I did a minute ago. We have a Supreme Court that was appointed differently than how they usually appoint Supreme Courts. And this is why some people are upset, because first the party in power goes, well, we can't appoint you, it's only a little while until the next election, so we can't appoint who you want. Okay. So then the party in power got to appoint who they wanted after the next election. Then, same thing happens 4 years later, almost 4 years later, and the party in power goes, well, it's only a little while till the election, but we get to appoint our guy. And lady, I guess it was. But so changing the rules in the middle, such a bad idea, because it gets to the legitimacy of our constitutional process. Similarly, there was an effort to, in the Idaho legislature, to pack the court. They didn't like that the Supreme Court, the legislature tried to limit the right of the people to have initiatives. It's in the Constitution. People voted for it, and the Supreme Court said no. So then a company, my opponent was a big part of this, tried to reduce their ability. First of all, they tried to defund them. They're the only branch of government that didn't get a raise. And then secondly, they tried to change how you appoint Supreme Court justices. We're going to punish them. So I think both of those are a bad idea. First Amendment, we got to have our we got a right to free speech. I talked to my opponent about her Facebook. I think if you're a legislator, you can't just say whatever. It's not say anything. You need to have responsible, respectful speech. I'd urge you to please think about that, not make up stuff, not spread misinformation. That's the point I talked about earlier. Second Amendment, it's there. I'm going to support it. Democrats talked to me. Not one of them asked for a gun ban. They just said, we have guns too. That's how we are in Idaho. So yes, yes, and yes on all three.
All right, thank you. Tammy Nichols, Republican, Senate 10.
Thank you. All three of those are very important issues and important to me, and I will just tackle them one at a time. But I want to start with the Second Amendment. I'm a huge Second Amendment supporter. I have supported and helped pass legislation on the Second Amendment in our state, and I feel that we even need to go further with that, because in our Constitution, it is shall not be infringed, and it doesn't give specifics on what types of firearms you can own and how much ammo you can have. The unfortunate thing is, in Idaho, we have a movement going on where the left, and I'm not going to categorize everyone in there, but just refer to them in generality as the left, is for common sense gun laws. And unfortunately, what that usually means is that common sense gun laws mean more gun restrictions on our rights. And so we have to be very careful. One of the things that people tell me when they first move to this state, especially from California, is one of the most exciting things that they're ready to do is go get their first firearm and go purchase their first firearm and learn how to use it and use it properly. So I am endorsed by the NRA, and I have, like I said, worked on pieces of legislation to help support that and co-sponsor it. On free speech, evidently, we do have some on these panels that are not full supporters of free speech, and apparently my opponent is the be-all to free speech, and especially on social media, which is kind of interesting now, based on that he says he supports free speech, but evidently that's not quite the case. He supports some free speech. So that's okay, but I am for free speech, and I'm for people to be able to exercise their free speech. I have people that support the things that I do and people that don't support the things that I do. But you know what? In the end, I can still go out and have breakfast with you or coffee or whatever you want to do, because it's not a personal thing. I like to talk about issues. We can discuss issues, and I'm not going to make it personal. We can agree to disagree, and that's okay. But we do have a movement that's going on in our nation also where individuals want to limit our free speech and to tell us what kind of things that we can and cannot say. I believe we also call that wokeism. And I like to personally call it label lynching, because they want to label you something if you say something, and that's to bring you down and try to destroy you, which is also known as cancel culture. So we do have a problem going on with our free speech, and it is under attack, and we need to protect it. On the rule of law, without rule of law, there is chaos. But that also means that laws need to make sure that they're not infringing on the constitutional rights of the individual, but they are there to protect the fundamental rights of the individual. That is why we need and want limited government. And so with rule of law, yes, there is a purpose for law, but we have to make sure it stays within its boundaries, and that is under dual federalism, which is an important thing to know if you don't know. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Let's hear from Chris Traco, Republican candidate for Senate District 11.
Thank you. All right, free speech. I live by, my debate coach told me back in high school, he goes, you know, we have laws to protect things people don't like, not laws to protect things people like. You don't need a law when everybody agrees on something. You need a law to protect it when people don't agree. So free speech is a big deal. Look at England back in the day. Look at all these other countries. Saddam Hussein, you know, he talked out bad about him. He hung you. He killed you. I've been to these countries that don't have free speech. I've been to these countries. You know what? The people are controlled. We make the joke here about sheep and following whatever, you know. Wait till you get over into one of those dictatorship countries and you'll see what a sheep is and how they're controlled because they don't have freedom of speech. They don't have things like that. And tying into that, Second Amendment, that's another big issue too. You always look at these countries where they have no way of defending themselves. You'll hear the argument that's made, well, the Second Amendment wasn't made for you to own an AR-15. It wasn't made to own blah, blah, blah. I beg to argue that. The Founding Fathers weren't idiots. They wrote a very specific piece in the Constitution for a very specific reason, and that was to fight against tyranny, both abroad and at home. And you can't do that, I'm sorry, with a .22 bolt-action rifle. And that everybody up here has been arguing, hey, we're for common sense gun law. That's their idea of common sense gun law. It's a .22 bolt-action rifle, fires one round, no high mag capacities, none of that stuff. Well, the Constitution wasn't written for hunting. It wasn't written for sporting. It was written for defense of this country and us as individual rights. I heard somebody say the right given to us. Nobody in this room has a constitutional right. Write that down. Not a single one of you has a constitutional right. Our rights come from God, all right? The Constitution, yeah, it's pretty funny, huh? The Constitution, God, a higher power, Mother Nature, however you want to look at it. I use God. But the Constitution is a contract between the people and the government, what the government is allowed to do and not to do. It does not give them power to just step outside of that like they do. So the Second Amendment is very important. I heard about, you know, the rules and stuff. Go try to get a gun. There's background checks. There's a lot of procedures and paperwork you have to go through. I also heard the argument does not have the right to own a gun because they might be a sociopath or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but are you not innocent until proven guilty? So if I say my neighbor's a sociopath and they come and remove his guns with no due process, no due right or law, tell me what amendment that's against in the Constitution. I'll wait while you open it up, all right? Because that's already in there, so you're violating two right there. Everybody has a right to fair trial, all right? And with that rule of law, it's common sense. If we don't, hell, I come from the military, all right? UCMJ. If you don't have a rule of law, you have chaos. You have chaos, you don't have discipline. You don't have discipline, everything falls apart. So rule of law is very important.
Okay, thank you. And Tony Farrow, Democrat, Senate District 11.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, I agree with mostly what people have been saying. That free speech, good. Rule of law, let's do that. Yeah, Second Amendment, I am a big supporter. I am from here also, right? It's Idaho. We all have guns. And really just to go to the mountains. I mean, at my sister's house, they lived out in the country. They used to they used to have to shoot the rattlesnakes that would hide under their house. I mean, people need them here in a lot of cases too. So yeah, I think you've got a table of Second Amendment supporters here, it seems like to me. One thing I would say is that, and I know it's been a long night. Am I last? Guys, I'm last. After me, you get to go. But what I'll say is that we spend a lot of time in the legislature working on very creative bills in all these arenas. You know, and I think a lot of it is some people trying to pander to their constituents, you know, to say, oh, you know, hey, I got this really great, important, you know, bill that is going to protect yet another really kind of weird little facet of your gun rights. And so I think we need to I would actually just urge us all to spend less time focusing on some of these issues and more time worrying about our schools, more time worrying about our roads, more time worrying about our housing, what we're going to do about all this rapid growth. So I would just ask that as future legislators, let's spend more time worrying about the problems people are actually facing and not invented ones that are going to kind of, give us more support from our base or whoever. So that's it. Look, I'm early.
You've done very well. Congratulations. Well, let's give everybody a big round of applause. We have more questions. I'm sure the audience has questions. We're going to do that offline here. And to wrap up, we'd like to give everybody just a short closing statement, 90 seconds or less. We'll actually accept less than 90 seconds if you want to do that. And since Tony Farrow just spoke, why don't we go with Julie Yamamoto, and then we'll work down the line, and then Tony will get the last word again. Julie.
So I am Julie Yamamoto, and it has been my absolute pleasure and an honor to serve as your representative, and I would like an opportunity to continue the work that we started, which I believe is to say, I can't always get everything I want. Somebody else doesn't always get everything they want, but come, let us reason together and let us try to come up with a solution that maybe everybody doesn't get what they want, but we get what we need, and that we can walk away from that feeling like that people have been heard and that we have done something good for all Idahoans, not just for a special interest. I would also say that I am a person of faith, and I know that some people that worries them, but I have to tell you, it is actually a very good thing that I know I don't know everything, so I do go to the Lord in prayer. I ask for wisdom. I ask for discernment. I ask for the courage to do the right things, even when it maybe isn't popular. I am a person who believes that in grace, that we should give people maybe not always what they deserve, but what they need, and that we should be merciful one toward another. That everybody has a tough row to hoe, and we don't know their story. So come, let us reason together, and let's go forward and do good things for Idaho. Julie Yamamoto, 11A. Thanks.
Thank you. Chris Allgood.
This great country and see what's going on, out of control inflation, high gas prices, drugs and crimes out of control in our cities, our borders wide open to all nationalities to walk across without repercussion. Meanwhile, our own citizens are under scrutiny for standing up for what they believe. This is what a democrat society looks like. It is not what we want for Idaho. It is not what we want to pass on to the next generation. We want to hang on to our families, our Bibles, and our guns. And I am asking you to send a strong message. Vote for conservatives. When you go to the polls, vote for Republicans. My name is Chris Allgood. I am 11B. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bob Solomon.
Hi, I'd like to thank the Chamber, the candidates, honored guests, for being here, for the opportunity for all of us to share this much of our views. I want to just go back and say I'm the candidate that wants to work on property taxes, growth, education, our Idaho way of life, our out of doors, and honor our freedoms and build our community. I want to make this following pledge to you. I hope that we could all listen and think about it. I pledge to you to listen to you and represent you, not a party or organization. I pledge to study the issues before voting. I pledge to act to bring our community together. I pledge to honor our constitutions, freedom, and Idaho way of life. And I pledge to treat everyone with dignity and respect. I just want to clean up a couple of things. Tammy, we've been to the M to talk about education, and I've called you a few times on that. I've kind of given up. Maybe we should renew. I don't mean to scold you. I believe you have absolute freedom of speech, and you can use it however you want to. I feel like as a community leader, the pledge that I made to listen to be respectful, to try to figure out good answers. I'll try and do that. Bob, so.
Thank you. Maricela Pacino.
Yes, thank you. Once again, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Summers, thank you, and the moderator, thank you, Mr. Carrick. I appreciate the opportunity to be up here with these people and to give our views. What I'd like to say is, I have worked on different committees with very many different people, whether they were conservative, moderates, libertarians, independents, Democrats, Republicans. And what I want to say is, what is it that we have done to make our community better? That's where I come from. I would like to, ask the public to look into who aligns with the needs and the values of the Idahoans in the majority of the issues. And, as we all know, the GOP supermajority has been leading our state government for at least the last 20 years. And, if we have problems, that's who's been leading the state. We need to make sure that our constituent voices are being heard. And, if you vote for me, I promise I will serve with integrity. I'm an advocate from day one since I was an 8-year-old translating, and I give my life to this advocacy. The only thing I can't give you is my soul. So please vote for Maricela Pacino, November 8, District 11.
Thank you. Chris Trakel.
I'd like to point out, like I said earlier, Idaho is well known in the nation as being a red conservative state built on family values, tradition, and the way of life in Idaho. And why is it that way? Because it's a conservative state. Why do we have an influx in one of the growing states in the nation? Because people are fleeing California, Oregon, and Washington, where they're burning down history, where they're taking away your free speech to say what you want, where they want to limit the type of firearms that you have and stuff like that. So if you like the way Idaho has been, then you vote conservative. If you want to change it and make it San Diego, then vote Democrat, and we'll get our tent cities out here and hypodermic needles sitting in the streets. And you tell me, is that the place you want to raise your kids in? Because you got to look at the product that is being sold. If we look at California, Portland, Oregon, and all those other states, what has come of them? They become horrible places that people don't want to live, and they're escaping by the droves. Is that what you want here? I don't think so. And I'd just like to say, it's really sad, and I'm not trying to point anyone out, but it's really sad that somebody will laugh that they believe our rights do not come from a higher power, whether that Muslim nature or not. If you believe your rights come from the government, they can be taken away like that. All right? Your rights are yours naturally. The government is here to respect that and protect your rights.
Thank you. Robert Scoville.
When I started this race, I was in school, and my view was that the world was this rosy place that I had the opportunity to learn how to make it better by participating in it. What I noticed was that the legislation that was being passed was short-sighted by only understanding the limitations and then building solutions that went around those limitations, not fixing them. My goals include something bigger, things like health care, education, and taxes. Repealing the grocery tax. Good idea. It saves everybody money. Everybody. That's not a D, that's not an R, that's not an I, that's not a C, that's not a Green Party. That is everybody saves money here and now. By understanding not just our physical limitations, but our cognitive limitations, also, we become capable of building a better Idaho and a better world for everybody. Rob Scoville, District 11A. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy Nichols.
Again, thank you everyone for coming out this evening. I know it was a long 3 hours, but it's great, and that's how government's supposed to work, is the people are supposed to be involved with the process. So I just want to reiterate that our country is currently at a tipping point, and it can go one of two directions. We are seeing the consequences of what the Biden administration and the Democratic agendas and policies are laying upon the people of the United States, and Idaho is no exception. We don't live in a bubble, and the things that are happening are going to have effects here. I will continue to do what I have been doing over the last 4 years in the House, and the reason I ran for Senate is because I saw changes that need to be made. We had some great pieces of legislation that did pass the House, or ideas that came out that we could not get taken care of in the Senate, and so there needed to be some changes made in that regard, and I have a bright hope that we're going to have some amazing opportunities coming up in the next legislative session. I will continue to ask these questions, though, on any pieces of legislation, and that is it constitutional? How does it affect the people in the state of Idaho? How much does it cost, and do we need it? And I've used those every single time. We need to make sure that we are keeping Idaho red. As has already been said, we do not want to become Portland or Seattle or San Diego or San Francisco. We want to maintain what we have, and the only way to maintain that is to maintain that we have Idaho red. So thank you. Tammy.
Thank you. And Tony Farrow.
Thank you. Yeah, Idaho is well known as a red state, and we have had a GOP legislature for a really long time. We don't really need to look very far, though, if we want to find problems. We have skyrocketing property taxes. We have skyrocketing housing costs. We have some of the lowest funding for schools in the nation. We have districts that cannot build new schools. We have a crumbling infrastructure. We've got roads and bridges that are way out of date. We've got cities and counties that aren't able to expand their police and fire departments. We've got a looming water crisis. That's right here. We've had one party in power for a really long time. And here's what I talk about when I talk to people about this at the doors, is that anytime you have one party in power for too long, things start to get a little weird, you know? People start to take for granted their votes, and they stop working for the issues that people are facing, right? We don't need to look at the national problems. We have local problems that people are facing right now. So I would just encourage you to think about that, think about what a balance could do, what a really healthier debate could do for the legislature right now in this really time of, you guys have said it a million times, rapid growth, guys. Okay, thank you so much. Tony Farrow, Senate, District 11.
Thank you, and thank you to all the candidates for a very engaging forum. Let's hear it for them, ladies and gentlemen. And we'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and also Facebook.com/TVPBN for streaming this for the Chamber and for our candidates. Everybody have a pleasant evening. God bless. Safe journeys. Bye-bye.